Yeah, this weekend's not good for me. I have to work on my script. Yeah, this weekend's not good for me. I have to work on my script.
Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, or good night, I guess, depending where you live. So it's been some crazy time. Very crazy. Very crazy. Very crazy, I would say. Finally drinking some coffee at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Alright, I'm finally drinking some coffee. Hope you guys can hear me. A lot of things been going on. Things with Manar. Some interesting things I saw with Manar last stream. Dealing with the whole situation with him and D-Dog. There's stuff going on with Iran, and from what I can tell, right, some updated stuff on the Iranian situation. Today is supposed to be the last airing of. Wait a minute, nope. I almost got spoiled. Today's supposed to be the airing of the last episode of Gundam Quarks. Which I'm very excited for. You don't understand. I'm very excited for the last episode of Gundam Quarks. I have been a huge fan of watching that whole anime. I'm gonna probably do I wouldn't say a review, but talking about Gundam Clocks, because I don't know if you guys know that I'm a huge Gundam fan, and that right there with that right there, beautiful. But let's look into this whole situation with Iran and Israel. Now, I think it's important because I already touched on this in my last stream for like a good hour and a half. About the situation. Now, do I think have we avoided World War III? I think for the most part we have. I don't believe World War III is gonna happen. I truly do not believe World War III is ever gonna happen anytime in my lifetime. There's really no reason besides wanting regional power, right? And the reason I say that it's very clear, right? The United States particularly is, especially the American people, like a good majority of the American people, bar from like neocons and neoliberals, right? They want, most people don't want endless war. People want more focus on domestic, right? So there's a heavy emphasis on more domestic than there is foreign, and has always been a very, I would say at least since the Bush administration, there's been this growing movement of especially younger people, especially my generation of people, who want more of a domestic approach. They don't want any more foreign, right? I know we've seen this, right? As far back at the early 2000s, I do remember that there was and then not even the early 2000s, but in the late 90s, right, with some extent even the Bush administration, and even with Reagan and right and Bush senior, right, there was a very push of some type of domestic approach, um, and that movement has grown to the point where I think I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 2 or 3 election cycle there's just a full on um movement of people that don't care about foreign affairs. And that's very difficult, right? Because on one hand, given the mass and size of the United States, its military power and its reach, especially when we're dealing with trade, uh, we can't really do that. Like, we can regress in some areas of the world, but when it's coming to, let's say, the Pacific, we really can't, right? The United States has put a very a heavy focus in the Pacific over the last 20 years. You could even say since Reagan, since even Nixon, right? You can say that, or even during, or even in World War II, right? There has been a heavy focus on the Pacific than the Atlantic. And it maybe had to do with the Europeans being more heavily focused in the Atlantic. So the United States is more focused on the Pacific, where a lot of trades are being done, especially with like India, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan, and even Russia to some extent. That's where a lot of the Pacific. That's why our focus is on the Pacific. And with the growing rise of the paper tiger, or in this case, the paper dragon that is known as China, right? That is also another case. Now, back to Israel and Iran, right? Right, back to Israel and Iran. Um, it looks like to some extent some hostility is over. It looks like, or at least from what it looks like from the outside, that then they're not fighting anymore. But also, the thing is, Israel can't afford a foreign war, if that makes any sense, right? Israel is only capable of long distance missile hitting, but how long is that gonna last, right? How long is it gonna last until those missiles are done, right? Because Israel has a limited supply, right? If you think about it, right, even with the United States or Russia, like Russia in theory has limitless supply, limitless amount of stuff that he can support the war, right? They can, because in the case of Russia, they do supply their own soldier, they do supply their own man during the Russian-Ukrainian war. But Ukraine, on the other hand, in theory, there's a limitless supply of weapons. But from what we understand during the Biden administration, during that particular war, um, it looked like we ran out of. Apparently, we ran through our stockpile. Now, I'm not sure how believable that is. But if it is true that we ran through our stockpile and we gave it all to the Ukrainians, then that means that they're basically boned. And even with the Europeans, they're probably not willing to do that, right? Because then that will leave them militarily weak, right? In the case of a war with Russia, even if they can push back the Russians or hold back the Russians, right? That is only so much. And in the case of Russia, they would need to up their defenses because from Eastern Europe into Russia, it's basically one flat, right? From what I understand, with the geography of Eastern Europe, particularly when you get past, I can't remember what river it is, but it's when you get past West Ukraine to East Ukraine, that particular river, it's basically a straight road to Moscow at that point. Even during World War II, that was a big concern, and even in World War One, that was even a bigger concern because even when you look at the Napoleonic War, right, Napoleon just went in straight into Russia. Now, mind you, it is Napoleon, so he was a military genius, but also like he had a lot of supplies. He had basically one of the biggest armies at the time, just steamroll the Russians. Um, he didn't account for winter and probably the guerrilla warfare and scorched earth tactics that were used against him. Right? Right? Now let's look at some stuff relating to this situation on X. Let's see if I can pop it up on my end. Now we got some interesting takes that are being thrown around. Maxwell Mayer. This has been one of Trump's greatest posturing days ever. Threatened to nuke Russia when he woke. I don't think did he threaten to nuke Russia? Did he, or that's what people? Okay, let's read it. Did I fear former President Medvedchuk? I'm from Russia. I believe if you're talking about constantly throwing around the N-word nuclear and saying that he and other countries were supplying. Oh, okay. He's referring to the report that many countries around the world, in a case of a full-on war with Israel and Iran, that they were going to supply Iran with nuclear warheads, which is insane. But are they going to actually do it? No, I don't. I don't think anyone screaming Iran broke the ceasefire clearly didn't read President Trump. He said approximately midnight Eastern. Someone may very well break it, but it hasn't happened yet. Congratulations, everybody! Yeah. So this was a couple hours ago. This was actually last night. Almost 12, a little bit more. 12 hours, right? All right, so it's been fully agreed in between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, from when Israel and Iran would have wind down and completed their process final mission for 12 hours, at which point the war would be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12-hour, Israel will start their ceasefire. Upon the 24-hour, an official to the 12 days war will be saluted to the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful, and on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12 Days War. That is a war that has gone on for years, destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless. You get it. Apparently that didn't last that long because Israel did shoot missiles right after. Now people were saying Iran shot missiles, but their ceasefire did not end it. They were still. It was right before the ceasefire on their end needed to be called. Right. It is what it is, and then Israel retaliated, but I think they did it before their ceasefire was officially into process. Right. Melody McAdoo, Iran broke the ceasefire, killed citizen, but people keep pretending Israel. Well, technically, because the ceasefire was not right. The ceasefire on Iran did not go into effect until that particular time. So that gave Iran probably ample time in their head to, well, this is about to end. We may as well do more damage we can before ending it. And Israel probably thought the same thing. They're just doing a friendly, plain wave to Iran guy, Lomal, mostly peaceful bombing, friendship missile, love strike. Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home. I'm not sure when this was called, right? It's what it is. Is not happy with Iran or Israel. They don't know what the.
I'm not happy. Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Okay. Say what you must about Trump. That was pretty fucking base for him to just say. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. I mean, all right. Let's think about this, right? Let's think about this. Israel can't afford a foreign war that he cannot combat. As in, they literally cannot. What does it say? Arab Anglo-Saxon interest is in Iran and Israel.
They don't know what.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It seems World War III lasted 45 minutes with 0 casualties. If this is truly the end of hostility, then dozens died in Israel and Hungary to maybe 1,000 in Iran, many which were citizens, all for absolutely nothing to accomplish because it looked like Iran moved the uranium out before the facility were bombed. Well, from what we understand, the uraniums were already moved out of Iran month prior to this. So, I again, as I said in my last stream, I felt that. Get it, Craig. Well, as I said in my last stream about the Iranian situation when we bombed them, the fact that nothing. Okay, so here's how it started, right? So we went to Iran, we bombed their facility, we bombed 3 of their facilities, right? But in their facilities, there was nothing. And from what we were told by Iran, take this with a grain of salt, whether you believe the Iranians or not, that none of their facilities were even that damaged to the point where they even straight up like, they're not even like they're repairable. It's not even that they're damaged, right? And from what I've heard from other sources, that Israel wanted the United States to use bunker busters, but we didn't. First off, I don't know why we would use bunker busters. I guess in a situation, if we were really dedicated to the war, we would have just bunker busted them, but we didn't. And I think that's something we need to talk about. It's like, you can tell that Trump does not care about this war. He literally does not care a single fuck for this war at all. I think if it was Kamala or Biden, I think they would have used buster bunkers or something even much more destructive. I wouldn't be surprised if it was confirmed that Biden, bombed a couple of villages in Iran just for the shits and giggles, which is even more fucked up, right? Now, in the case of a total war between Iran and Israel, it's not gonna happen. First off, all they can do is shoot missiles at each other, and from what we can see, the Iron Dome in Israel has failed, right? The Iron Dome in Israel has completely failed, and I think at this point, I'm pretty sure the Iron Dome can't even block most of the missiles, right? Because we saw a bunch of reports of Iranian missiles striking Israeli cities, right? And that the Iron Dome was incapable of defending. It was incapable, right? I don't even remember when Israel hasn't had Bibi as PM of Israel anymore. They had Bibi for a long time. I think they had Bibi since Clinton. But here's the thing about it, get crack. And I said it to a friend of mine. When we're talking about Israeli politics, it's very interesting because Israeli politics is not about like left and right wing. It's about who is very pro, who is the most nationalistic, right? Like, and who is the most genocidal freaks in the Israeli political world, right? You can't deny that, right? And in a way, that's actually kind of not saying that that's a cooler base, far from that. But I mean, being nationalistic is pretty base. I would say that genocidal, it's not. But the fact that regardless of any of the Israeli parties, they are always 100% pro nationalistic to the point where they are very destructive. Yeah, I was traveling in the Middle East just before the Arab Spring. Israel and Turkey had an interesting politics for sure. Turkey is interesting because after the rise of Ataturk and his establishment of the modern day Turkey, what is really funny because I really wanted Manar to talk about that. At Gron, it's also interesting. I really wanted Manar. I wanted Manar opinion about Turkey because Turkey, from what I understand, it's a very secularized state until recently, right? Currently, with the current president of Turkey, it is becoming more Islamic. It is to the point where the military had a failed coup d'état. Remember, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, the military was trying to coup d'état the president, and it failed miserably. For anyone who isn't aware, Turkey is meant to be in its constitution due to Ataturk. Um, Ataturk made sure that the military's job is to make sure that Turkey does not become a Islamic state. Ataturk was very anti-Islamic. He was very anti-Islamic. His policy was heavily secular. Now, when we do talk about Ataturk, I know that Ataturk was a socialist in some regards, but he was very nationalistic. Um, and then when it's coming to technology, he was very progressive. Now, some people would say that Ataturk maybe was the third position, and that his party is third position. What I do agree, Ataturk government and everything was very third position. It was traditional or conservative with Turkey culture, but he was very anti-Islamic, which made him very secular. I'm not sure about the other minority religious population, like Christians. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he was very sympathetic towards the Christians, especially the minorities. I'm not sure about the Kurds. I wouldn't be surprised if he hated the Kurds. Um, so there's that to think about. Turkey has a very good military defense company. I worked with a lot of Turkey engineers. That's pretty cool. That's actually pretty interesting. But so it wasn't surprised. It wasn't surprised Turks have the best drones. I've heard. I've actually heard. I mean, let's not deny that Turkey had a big hand in removing Bashar, right? Turkey had a really big hand in defeating Bashar's government during the Syrian civil war. I mean, in all fairness, Bashar should have won the civil war, right? And I mean, he was winning, and in almost every right, he did win the civil war until the last minute, where you can't deny that there was helping hand from the Israelis and the Turks and the United States. I think it was confirmed that there was U.S. military troops, or at least military spec ops forces in parts of Syria. Now, mind you, Syria was split between different forces, and there was this weird rebellious Kurd forces that I believe they were being supplied by the Israelis and the Turks. Which is interesting to hear that the Turks were willing to supply the Kurds, even though in Turkey they hate the Kurds with a passion. So that is That is interesting. I'm not sure if Turkey down the line is planning to move all the Kurds into Syria as a way of political stability. Spud is maxing. Yeah, a little bit. Um, Let me see if there's any more news going on with the Israel and Iran situation. Um, but yeah, back to when I was talking about Manar, because I wanted his take on Turkey. Because I wanted to see if he was supportive of the current Turkish government or not. Because I think in the next couple years we are going to see a moving away of secular Turkey into more of like, not like, I'm not gonna say it's like some type of revival of the Ottoman Empire, but we are gonna see Turkey moving towards a theocratic republic with a with a very deep military focus, right? Particularly in the Middle East, because they really can't do anything in the Balkans without starting a full on like actually World War III in the Balkans, because all of the Balkans, right, despise Turkey with a passion. Maybe beside Albania, but I don't think the Albanians are willing to lose their whole country for Turkey. Uh, maybe maybe Macedonia, but I don't think the Macedonian or not Belarus, Bulgaria, they're willing to lose their country for Turkey. Because I know that's right there. Turkey definitely wants to be a strong regional power. Ottomans and Persians were always very for power, vying for power over the Arabs. Well, in the Arab world, right? Let's look at a map of the Arab. Let's look at a map, right, of the Arab world, or really the Islamic world. Because when we're talking about the Middle East and Anatolia, right? You have to break it up between. You have to break it up between Turkey. You gotta break it up between Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Iran, right? Now you may be asking, what about Iraq? Well, after the fall of Saddam Hussein, I'm saying his name wrong. Iraq became less and less of a major regional power. I mean, if anything, Iraq is more of a puppet of the Saudis, right? So there are four powers in the Middle East that are fighting for control: Israel, Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. Now they're fighting over control. Now the problem is, to control the Middle East, you need to control Mecca. You cannot control the Middle East without controlling Mecca, because with the Saudis controlling Mecca, they have religious power over the Middle East. They just do. They just do. And I would not be surprised in the next coming years, there's going to be wars over Mecca. Now, you may be thinking, what about Jerusalem? Jerusalem is only important to the Christian and Muslim world. I mean, in the Jewish world, right? Israel is really Jerusalem. Oh boy, what did I tune into? It's a little bit of political talk. We'll probably move this on eventually, but people sometimes like this, right? I'm trying to get a better outline of the Arab world. El Asqa Mosque Naba. I'm not pronouncing that. Get crack. I'm trying to look at a better map of the world, or at least of that world we need to talk about. I guess Wikipedia. We can use Wikipedia as a good map. It's not the best map, but you take what you get, I guess. Now, actually, yeah, this is a good map. This is a good map. This is a good map for what we need, right? So, this is the Middle East plus Anatolia. Now, whether or not you want to consider Turkey part of the Middle East, that's up to you. That's up to you yourself. Personally, because Turkish culture isn't Turkish culture. Turkish culture is actually Greek culture. Hot take. Turks are actually just Islamic Greeks that can literally start a full-on fight. I call it Asia Minor. Asia Minor is a good term. Asia Minor is a better term when you're regarding this whole area, but if you're only regarding it as the Middle East, you do need to add Egypt into it, and you don't need to add Persia. Persia is technically not really part of the Middle East, depending on who you want to ask. But okay, I really hate that it's not letting me zoom in. But right now, as we speak, to control the Middle East, to control the Muslim world, you need Mecca, right? You need Mecca to control the Middle East. And I don't think Turkey is stupid enough to risk a full-on invasion of the Saudis to gain control of Mecca. Now, I can imagine that it would be a dream and a major victory on Turkey if they can control Mecca, but they're not going to be able to control Mecca anytime soon or in the foreseeable future. That depends if the House of Saudi does collapse, right? Because the House of Saudi is only buying time, right? Their oil is only buying Tel Manar to start a new caliphate. That'd be fucking funny. Now, I think the only power in the Middle East that could have taken Mecca is probably Egypt. Syria and Israel are the only other power offhand that, militarily speaking, could get Mecca. But then the question is, how strong is Saudi Arabia militarily speaking? The thing is, though, Saudi Arabia has a lot of friends around the world. So even if they lose... Hello, everyone. Hello, Jeff Hemp. How you doing? Now, even if Saudi Arabia does not have the best military, I think Israel will come into defense to defend. I know that's weird, but there's been weirder alliances in the past, right? The Franco-Turkish alliance was a good example, right? You know, the Hasma royalty has claimed over Mecca and Medina before they lost it to the Saudi. The Hasma, I've heard about that one. But again, even if right. So if they can get claim or even just straight up take over Saudi Arabia, Mecca, then they can gain basically full political power in the Middle East. I mean, during the time of the Ba'athists, it was very important for them. Even if they were secular, I can imagine it was very deeply important to have Jerusalem and Mecca under their hand. Now, for their situation, it's because you got to remember Baathism did start out from a Christian perspective. People don't know. People should know this, but Baathism was started by a Lebanese Christian. Take that information however you want, right? Take that information however you want, and it makes sense why a lot of Arabs, particularly Muslim Arabs, do not want Baathism in their country, right? So take that with a grain, right? Now again, do I see? I know. Back to Turkey. Turkey in the next couple of years may become a regional power, even with their currency basically being in their economy being down the drain. It kind of doesn't matter to them because militarily, as long as they are strong military, the Turkish will still sustain. Even if they lose Constantinople, right? Turkey, speaking, right now cannot afford to lose Constantinople, right? They can't afford to lose it. But if they can get, let's say, Mecca or somewhere else that is much more important, then I think they'll be willing to lose Constantinople in case of a war between the Balkans, right? In case of a war between the Balkans and they lose Constantinople, as long as they have something else to replace it, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Turkey has a plan in case of an invasion that they're willing to give up Constantinople, right? And they can just... and there's been attempts in the past, even in the Soviet Union. Believe it or not, the Soviet Union had plans to take over Constantinople. So there's that to think about. That is actually something that people don't know about. The Soviets actually wanted to take Constantinople at one point. Now, back to Israel-Iran before we move on to Manar, because I think his little debate was a little ridiculous, but what's pretty funny to watch. Israel can't afford a war against Iran long-term speaking. They are at a position where they're not anywhere near Iran. right? They're nowhere near Iran, so they can't afford to just, land invasion. Naval evasion would just be very risky. WWE has SmackDown and Night of Champion, and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia has some of the talent. Want WWE to pull up. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, because I know Saudi Arabia puts a lot of money into entertainment over the last, I believe, the last 40 years, maybe less. There has been a there's been a focus. Oh, hi, yeah. No, I said hi to you, man. There's been a focus from Saudi Arabia to enter entertainment around the world. I think a couple years ago, there was a report of Saudi Arabia investing a lot in anime, believe it or not. That was a big thing. Because Saudi Arabia know that there's only so much oil they can supply. They can supply to the world without competitions, right? Because if they're competing, right, Iran can supply oil, Russia can supply oil. So right now, and since most of the world hates Russia and Iran, Saudi Arabia is making a shit ton of money. But the problem is, right, the problem comes down to, sorry if you can hear that. The problem is that, how long is this going to last? The Arab dude from He Will Not Divide Us, NYC, became a wrestler and did matches. Really? Are you talking about the guy who was also trolling? Damn, Saudi also put money into competing with the PGA with their own golf league. Oh, did not know that. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Because Saudi Arabia, they're focusing everything on entertainment. They have to because their oils reserve will probably last them for 100 to 200 years unless we can find something that could replace oil, which we do with like nuclear. They were bleeding up money for the Tiger Woods to switch. Really? That I did not know. I mean, also like to also talk about this, right? Um, they have at least 100. They have, let's say, 100 to 200 years until their oil reserves are up. Till then, they have the money to keep pushing towards entertainment. Yeah, sure, Mansoor WW, you'll find the Ace WNDU. Oh, he will not divide. I did not know that. That's actually pretty cool. And I mean, also, most of the world is trying to move towards nuclear, right? The United States is focusing on moving nuclear. Now, in the case of the Europeans, like a complete dumbasses, they decided to cut their nuclear program, which is ridiculous. I heard Germany cut their nuclear program. Now, France wouldn't. I don't think the French would ever cut their nuclear program unless they already did. Then I'm behind. But I don't think the French will ever cut their nuclear program. But believe it or not, their nuclear program is what keeping Russia away from like actually invading Europe. Because if the Russians really wanted to, they can pull all their auxiliary forces and probably get through Ukraine, they can get through Poland, through Belarus, sweep right through they can easily sweep right through the, countries like the not Black Sea, like they can sweep right through Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. They can sweep right through them because they don't have much of a military force, right? If NATO wasn't involved, right? And they could go right into Poland. In theory, they can probably get through Germany, but the problem is because the French and technically the British have nuclear weapon that is stopping it. I believe there was a report called what is it, 6 States into the Rhine? I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, 6 States to the Rhine, where it was an invasion plan of Western Europe from the Soviet Union, and they apparently the French love being independent of NATO. Remember they left NATO military command structure at the de Gaulle and only came back during Sarkozy. Say what you must about the Gaulle. The Gaulle, I appreciate the Gaulle balls to stand up against American imperialism and the Soviet imperialism. I know what I'm saying. I'm saying it purposely. I'm saying that very purposely. whether or not I have a thing against imperialism is another thing in itself. But yes, the French are very deeply independent. Only until recently. I mean, even with Macron, maybe Macron has been kind of pushing a divide between the Germans and them, right? I'm pretty sure Macron has been trying to push for independent Latin Union against the German over the last couple months, even years. Especially with the German agreement that the Germans had with Russia, that was a big divide between them and the French. Because the only thing that is keeping the European Union together is the France. If France were to leave the European Union, that's it. The European Union is dead, right? The Germans can only do so much. Without France, the European Union is dead. Now, now, what about the other side? What if Germany leave? Well, if Germany leaves the European Union, that doesn't really mean much because Italy, Spain, Portugal, a lot of the Latin-speaking nation would still join up with the French, and they may create. Like I think a friend of mine was telling me that we may see a Latin union between the Latin-speaking world, and we may see a Germany that is focused more on Middle Europa, which is always been a thing about the Germans. The Germans have always focused a lot of emphasis on Eastern Europe, Middle Europe. That's always been a German thing. You know, when you go to Eastern Europe, there's a lot of schools that are being supplied by German people. There's a lot of private school in Eastern Europe, Middle Europe that are being backed by the Germans. So we may see a Europe that is divided between the Latin and the Germanics with Slavic support. Now, where does it leave the Balkans? The Balkans may just be a battleground again. We may see a future where we see a Latin Europe and a German Europe fight over the Balkans again. But that depends on who do they support. Do they support the Greeks and the Serbs, or do they support the Serbs or the Manis? Who in this area is going to be the top player? It's going to be Serbia. It's going to be Greek. The question is it going to be Romania, Bulgaria, or Macedonia? Right? Who is going to be the tipping force in the Balkan? Turkey could get involved. Turkey is probably going to be used as a deterrent. But if Turkey is focusing more on the Middle East, then Turkey probably will not get involved in European affairs because they'll have to hand deal with the Arabs, right? Because the Arabs do not like the Turks, and then there's the situation with the Kurds, who they don't like either the Arabs or Turkey. I don't see. Also, before anybody asks, I don't see a future of Kurdish independence. It's just not. It's not a real thing. Sorry to say this, you're more likely to have a Gypsy independent country than you are a Kurdish independent country. You are. You know, some people may not like that. And some people may not like me saying that, but the Kurds will not have an independent country in my lifetime. If they do, that's mostly because Turkey completely collapsed due to a war that they could not win. But that's based on if the Russians get involved, the Balkan countries get involved. I mean, it doesn't really matter about I'm trying to remember this region of the world, not Cascadia. The Caucasus, right? The Caucasus are very much pro-Russian, or at least they're puppets of the Russian state. They're not gonna back Iran. They're not gonna back Turkey. They have their own region, particularly religious region, with not Armenia. Oh, with Armenia, right? So in this situation, we may see the Caucasus probably either being split between the Iranians or the Russian or the Turks, but it's probably going to be controlled by the Russians at this point. So again, this is all speculation. It can go either way, right? It's all speculation. How long have we been streaming? How long have I been talking about this? Almost an hour. I guess when we hit the hour mark, we'll move on to Manar stuff and maybe some local live stuff. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not really trying to make this into a whole political stream, but politics gets views on YouTube. It gets new subscribers, it gets new views, and a lot of the time when I'm on Local Reject, when I'm talking to some of the people from there, we do talk about politics quite a bit. I mean, this is the stuff that I want Menard to know about. This is the stuff that I want Menard to talk about because I really like. There's a YouTube channel, I can't remember what it's called, that focus on Middle Eastern politics. They focus on things like Ataturk. I can't remember what the channel's name is offhand, but it's a guy from the Middle East, and he focused on a lot on Arab politics in that world. And that guy, if I can contact that guy, I would like to have him on Reject, just because he would be interesting to talk to, or at least on this channel, one of the two. I would like him to be on Reject just so we can push Reject over the 500 mark. So that would be something cool for D Dog. But that depends on D Dog, and that depends on OBC Don and all that fun jibbity jab. Um, but I gotta look up that channel. Maybe next time for the next stream, we can watch a lot of that video and talk about their Middle Eastern politics. Because I find Middle Eastern politics to be very interesting. Like Lebanon has a system where the five major denominations or the five major religion in Lebanon have political power, and they all have a seat in, I think, it's the parliament in Lebanon. That right there is interesting because depending on demographic change, that can tip the power on one side or the other. And there's been this weird change of wanting to move Lebanon from a different direction. Now I do know, um, the thing about Lebanon though, there is a big diaspora of Lebanese around the world. Particularly, there's a lot of Lebanese in like Mexico and Brazil. If people are not aware, there's a huge um diaspora in South America and North America. I know there is a bit of of some diaspora in Europe, but not comparable to what you find in South America. Sakara, Colombia. Yeah, yeah. I noticed. Yeah. Um, I know there is a small diaspora of like autonomous Turkish people in Mexico. Well, then again, at that point, there would still be Greeks. I mean, there'll be Greeks either way, but I guess if you want to be technical, um, Turks. Sakarya is Lebanese from Colombia. Oh, interesting. Oh, Sakira. Oh, I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I can't read. Sakira is Lebanese from. Really? Sakira is Lebanese? I mean, I know she was from Colombia. I cannot read today. Let me look that shit up. She, let me. I did not knew. Huh. That actually makes a lot more sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just looked that up. Sakira is from. My friend is married to a Colombian who's half Lebanese. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, right? My dad, his mom, her ancestors come from like Greek, Turkish, like mind you, like I'm Mexican, right? So my dad was telling me one day that like yeah, his mom, she has like she's I think he mentioned that she was Greek. She was either Greek or Turkish. Like he said that very clear. Yeah, like the way he described it was pretty funny. He said, "Yeah, the village that your grandma's from is it's full of like Turkish Greek people." And I act like really, like yeah, like they were distinctly like you can tell that they were from Greek or Turkey. Like they had that facial feature from that area. Like they were distinctly. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. He said, yeah, yeah. Cause he mentioned that like a lot of people assume that like me, like a lot of people who look at me, like I look very Arabic. I look very Spaniard, right? I have a very clear Spaniard Arabic mix, right? Which is funny because my mom's dad is from Spain, right? I know that for a fact that my mom dad is from Spain. So that's if you want a bit of my genealogy, analogy. There's that because my I've seen pictures of my grandpa from my dad's side, and he's like a tall ass giant, blue eye, blonde hair. My mom had like mixed blonde hair. Her brother, who was a giant, had like did not have brown eyes. I think he had hazel or blue eyes, and he was like had blonde hair. If you looked at him, you would think that he was straight from like. You can tell he's Mexican, right? But you can tell that he was very more like a Cristizo, anything else. He was very like giant. He was very. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Like that kind of Mexican, where like they have more of European blood. That's what he was like. And his kids are very much like that. His kids are giant Castizos. Well, I use that word because it's the best description, right? It's a better description than simply saying white Mexican. Castizos are overpopulation in Televinova. They are. They are. Well, like it's overrepresentation. Well, they are. Uh, because when I don't want to get into Mexican politics because like it kind of Mexican politics is basically is whoever has backing and even religious backing is the one who controls Mexico. Currently speaking, right now with Mexico's current president, who is who is known to have connection with the cartel, um, and is not Catholic, and she is not. You know what I mean. If you know what I'm trying to say, you know what I'm trying to say about the current Mexican president, who I believe if she is not ousted, she will start a war with the United States or start provoking the United. I mean, she already did. She already provoked the United States during the ICE stuff that happened a couple of weeks ago. So things are going. So Obdora made another branch of the Mexican. She did. When was this? I gotta. I don't know. I gotta keep up with the. I gotta keep up with it because I do follow. Obdora. Interesting stuff. You don't like Sabo. I mean, do you like her? I mean, I'm not saying that she's from a tribe from a certain part of the Middle East, but I have a lot of reasons. I just don't like her. I don't like her. Most of the Mexican population doesn't like her. She has her hand in the cartel. She does. She has her pocket is full of cartel money. We all know that. Every Mexican knows that she works with the cartel. I mean, the cartel was the reason why she got in. I don't know if you like or dislike, but I have to pay attention because I like Mexican style. That's fair. That's perfectly fair. I mean, I wouldn't like her because she, like, what is it? During the whole tariff situation, she nearly caused the peso to collapse. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the peso did collapse during that whole situation, and she never said anything about it because it was for her own region. She said it, it was better for her not to say it. Um, so there's that to think about because she did nearly collapse the peso really bad. Really, really bad. The peso nearly collapsed under during that whole debacle. Um, because if Trump would have moved forward, because Mexico doesn't have the economic power or the military power to come with a better agreement. Canada, on the other hand, because of our shared history and culture, right, especially among the more Anglican, Obdora has significantly increased the role and representation of the Mexican military during his presidency, a trend cited as militarization. This includes placing the National Guard, a civilian security force, under military command, though they face legal challenge. On Casimir, Kari Samir, the UK Prime Minister. I haven't been focusing too much on the United Kingdom. From last time I heard from a lot of Brit bongs from that area, they haven't. The last time I had an interest in Europe, United Kingdom politics, was during the UKIP situation. I supported UKIP a lot. I know the last time I heard about UK politics, there was this big problem among certain labor member wanting to not help the royal house. I know there was that situation. I know there was that whole situation where the UK there was that whole situation among the United Kingdom where certain members of parliament did not want to recognize the monarch, which is ridiculous. I'm reading that he's raising defense in NATO. That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, the United Kingdom has three ways to go. The United Kingdom can go independent and create the CANSAC agreement between Canada and with TK got really mad at me about when I was trying to talk about politics. I don't think TK understood what I mean, I think he understood what I was trying to get at. I think I just used the wrong words. I said treaty, but it should have been the word. I think the actual word, the actual agreement. Actually, let me look it out. What it is actually called. The whole CANSAC thing. If it I don't know. If it ever. True, I do when Nigel Farrell was prime, and I do with Nigel Farrell was prime minister because he was funny them, but I do agree with most of what he said. With Nigel Farrell reminds me of Ron Paul, right? A lot of people when Ron Paul was going with I think it was like 2012, right? When Ron Paul had a big influence a lot of people with the libertarian movement, both in the left and right wing of libertarianism. CANSAC, yeah, the CANSAC it's a proposed alliance of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom. I think CANSAC it's gonna happen more and more as we get on. But I'll answer. Like I really did with Nigel Farage, really got into prime minister, or at least more into more roles in the in the parliament. He would have been really good for the UKIP movement and everything. Sargon Akkad did fuck that up. Sargon Akkad literally fucking killed the whole UKIP movement. I don't know how the fuck you do that. How the fuck you kill a whole political party? That is fucking wild. I mean, say what you must about Sargon, but how do you fuck that shit up? That's like if Manar went to Syria, joined the Ba'athist party during the civil war, and then lost. Don't remind me of Sargon. Sargon is an interesting figure that I have to cover one day. Before I move on to Sargon, yeah, I did with Nigel. Nigel reminds me like Ron Paul. Ron Paul and Nigel had a big influence in their respective areas in their own respective countries. Ron Paul, if won, probably would have changed U.S. politics forever, because he was not an established person, and he was so different that I think if he would have won, I think he would have won a second term, and maybe Trump made him not ever got into power. And I think Trump at that point would have not been interested in being president. I know that's a hot take. I think if Ron Paul would have won the 2014 election and then end up winning the 2016 election, I think Donald Trump would have no interest, or maybe he would have more interest running for presidency in the 2020 election. But that's depending if COVID would have still happened or not, right? That's a lot of what ifs. That would have been an interesting world where Ron Paul would have won and became presidency and beat Obama. But for that to work, for Ron Paul to beat Obama, that means that he would have gained more of the black votes. People forget Trump was a third party guy running with Oprah. Yeah. Yeah, people did forget about that. Maybe in another world, Trump and Oprah probably could have won an election. Like at one point, true, UKIP got destroyed, but then Nigel created a new party called the Reform UK. I think like 1-2 years ago, he did create the Reform UK. I gotta follow more UKIP politics. I mean, at one point, Oprah had political sway. Like, I don't know if people remember that Oprah had a lot of political sway in U.S. politics for a very long time. At least since the 2000s, she was very focused in politics. True, Trump isn't a Republican technically. That is also true. Like I said before, when I voted for Trump, I did not vote for the Republican Party. I do not care. I'm making it very. Oprah was very powerful with white voters, white women voters. Yes, yes, he was. Also with black women voters. You got to remember the reason that Obama won the election was not simply because he was the first black. I mean, technically he's mixed. He's actually mulatto, but that doesn't matter, right? No one cares about that, right? I think the reason why Obama won, and there's a lot of reason why Obama won the election. Also, let's not deny, he had a help from, I wouldn't be so, I mean, I'll get into that in a little bit. Obama also won because he had the most amount of black male voters, with are known, right? Male black voters in America are known to have low turnout rate. Like, if you ever studied voting patterns in America, black males have the lowest rate of voting turnout. They always have. They always had the lowest turnout rate in American politics. I know there's this weird thing among the 60 minutes, so you gotta talk. You gotta talk Menard now. Fuck! Shit, I was getting into it. Now I know how D-Dog feels. Now I know how D-Dog feels. We'll get into Menard in a little second. Let me finish this topic off. Yeah. I mean, that's also why Trump won. The reason also Trump won was because he the reason Trump won the election was because he had a high turnout of black male voters because of the way black male voters related to Trump during the time that Trump was getting prosecuted. So for a lot of black male, they related to that feeling. It's just a true thing. It's a true fact. If you want to agree with me or not. In the case of black women are known to vote more Democrats. Even if their best interest is not in the Democrat, they're just known for repeated voting patterns. But that's enough of that topic. Let's get into Menard. Let's fast forward this shit.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome. Soon somebody will start making me some music, hopefully. Just fix that camera. How's everybody? Just woke up. Woke up pretty late. I took a small nap. Took a small nap yesterday. What am I talking about? Took a small nap earlier today.
You took a little nappy?
And I don't know what the hell happened to me, but this thing is not operating today. Come on, man. Not gonna work.
That's his wife. That is. Before I go forward, just a reminder, Menard, you show your wife I'm not doing anything that will get me hit, because the whole D-Dog situation. Just a reminder, Menard, you voluntarily show your wife I am not getting hit. That's it. Glad you're streaming. I gotta go up. See you later, Get Crack. I said, glad you're streaming. The Jorbs are unbearable to watch with their usual bullshit. Yeah. I try to spice it up, right? I try to spice up my content. I did an hour talk of politics in the R. We may talk about locale and that shit down a little bit, depending. This may not be a long stream. This may be a 2-hour stream, but I have like something structured in my head, and And I know, and this is, and if Roxy, if you're listening to this, Roxy, because I know you are, and Ken, I know you're listening to me as well. I know I'm very harsh on you guys, and I may not like your guys' respective side. It is what it is, but I would say take what I say with a grain of salt, and if you find something that is sort of valid, go ahead. I still not like. Hey, I like Ken. I may not like Roxy. What the hell is Low Cal Reject? Low Cal Reject Ozzy Cobb is a channel that was originally run by Grace and Ben. They rebranded to Misunderstood. Then after it got rebranded, OPC Don, who was a former, I guess, Grace simp, took the channel name. They had a different channel that got shut down because of TK and Dan, or not really TK and Dan, but from other reason. And then they rebrand. Then OPC Don had a spare account. Then he created a whole other channel. Now he just grabbed a random channel and named that Low Cal Reject. I go there quite often. A lot of the people from this chat go to Low Cal Reject. I'll drop their stuff in a minute. I'll drop their channel stuff. Give them a like, get them a sub. The beginning of the Low Cal Reject with a good art. Yes, 100%, 100%. All that's the channel right there. It's the main host is a guy named Dalmatian Dog. He was a former great simp. I recommend watching them. I recommend watching him. He is quite entertaining. You will get a lot out of him, right? And he lets a lot of people up there. So if you want to talk to him, he'll let you up there. Unless he's going into his manic rants, then yeah, you're gonna have to wait a little bit because his manic rants can literally go. NDR can testify. NDR, who is a mod, can tell you, who can tell you this much. He can go into an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour manic rant, and I've been there. I've literally been in his manic rant, with the whole Jeremy stuff, and I was just like, I don't care. New topic. Interesting. I seen some of their vid in the one you posted about the guy crashing out about Minor or something. That's Spicoli. He's been more or less banned from a lot of from that sphere, or maybe thinking of something else. No. The one you're talking about is Spicoli. He was on reject, but he's been I think he's permanently banned for now. D-Dog is a great panel. Yeah, D-Dog is a great panel host. That, no matter what anybody says, and I like D-Dog, he is a great panel host. He knows how to run a panel. He has a natural knack for it. He just does. And he needs to lean into it more. I would say that he should bring people up more often. My only critique would be I think he needs to occasionally bring people, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes, he should bring more people up often to see what their take is, and then have him respond to those takes, and then after the 5-10 minutes, bring them back down. I think that's what D-Dog needs to do more often. If they don't contribute to the conversation or ask an important question, then I don't think they should be. I mean, hear them out, but like if there's not anything that's contributing, whatever. But I do think D-Dog needs to bring people up more often. Like yesterday's stream, he should have brought some people up just so he can hear their takes on the whole Gray stuff. You know, Scotty, I like Scotty. Scotty can be a bit of a drunk, but I think in the case of Scotty, I would like to see what Scotty opinion is, because Scotty doesn't know anything about these people, so it would be interesting to see, Scotty getting a bit of a crash course. Scotty needs to get a crash course of some dorps. That would be a fun stream.
Alright, so I don't know what the hell the deal is. Anyways. So, woke up. And apparently, you guys would appreciate it if you guys would shout out the stream in the Discord and other people's Discords. Really appreciate that if anybody can do that for me. Apparently, EB3 actually wants a debate. The buffoon thinks he actually can challenge me. I don't think he knows who I am. I really don't. I don't think he knows who I am. So this is gonna be fun. Let me get some water. Just turn on the stream. Let me just shout out the stream to everybody. Appreciate if y'all would throw this out. Appreciate if you guys would throw this out for me.
I like how Manor said like that buffoon, he doesn't even know who I am. I'm like, dude, no one knew who you were until recently. What does that even mean? It'd be different like you have 10,000 subscribers and you're on a lot of panel debating and you know what you're talking about. Okay, agreed. But dude, no one knows who you are now. You only just pop up through what's her name? You only just recently popped up due to Ava and Grace. Like I gotta check out EB3. I want to see what he's about because he's like this weird, like He's this weird individual, independent Christian. Which sounds interesting.
You only just recently
popped up. Holy shit. The sim intervention with Jim are hilarious, dude. I only watched a little bit of the whole Jim. We're doing a video. I'm gonna do a video on Jim because that's interesting. The Jim video would be very interesting to talk about. I'm gonna have to do a video on Jim. If he pops up again, I'm gonna have to talk about him because he's quite interesting. Jim may be a recurring locale in locale rejects, but everything about Manar is fragile, fake Muslim, fake Arab. Yeah, I know. I'm the one who called him an Indian. Everybody's throwing the claim of he's Indian. I was the one who made that claim first, all right? I was the one who made the claim first that he was Indian, and he got mad at me, and then he started to insult my voice. Like, this is how you talk, Spider. This is how you talk. And I'm like, fair enough. That's how I do talk. But the fact that you got really mad that I called you an indie says a lot about you.
Okay, guys, let's go find him. I think I know where he is, though. I think I know who this lobby guy is. Guys, this is gonna suck. I'm gonna have to run this whole thing with one freaking screen today. This is gonna suck. Let me open my YouTube here so I can at least read.
I know people debate whether or not he's married. I'm not even sure if he is married.
So what up, Ava?
I mean, I don't see a ring. I mean, he could easily just be.
Mr.
I mean, he did say he was looking for a second wife. He straight up did say he was looking for a second wife.
Mr. Moneybags. Yo, debate archives is here. Oh my god, perfect. Okay, guys, get set up. We're gonna get
BB? A BB?
What's happening? I just woke up. I usually don't take fucking naps. This is like disorientating for me. I don't know what just happened. Let me make sure everything's gonna work perfectly. Manar versus EB3 should be a good debate. I'm excited for this. Calm down, Eva. Calm down, Eva. Let me fix this. Hit the like button. Yes.
This picture is.
Actually, don't calm down.
What married woman would ever tolerate the screaming in their basement? Well, he said that his wife is Mexican and it's somebody who comes from that culture. A lot of wives will not tolerate the bullshit, right? They will not tolerate that yelling. They will not tolerate the screaming. I know a lot of Spanish women do tolerate the nerdy stuff. That's for a fact. Whatever. But the yelling and screaming, they literally don't tolerate that shit. I doubt she even lives there. Maybe, who knows?
Everybody get excited. Let me make sure all the voice is gonna come out right. This should be coming from there.
It could be like a green card situation where he needs a green card, she needs a green card. He can, put himself down as a refugee. He can get an instant green card, and she gets a green card, and then boom. That does happen.
The Yeti, and then we should be getting the Yeti. Where's the Yeti? In the Discord server as well. Yep, we should. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, where is he? Where is he? Get some tea.
Oh, looked like Ben donated money to him. Interesting. He's in a lot of Discord servers. Holy shit, dude. The fuck?
Yeah.
Plausible. Yes.
Yeah, he
Where is
left
he from?
like
Where is he from?
England. He's English.
God bless him. So. Okay. So here. I want to ask you a question. Dingo.
Hello.
Dingo. What is your
Hey,
deal,
Dingo.
man? What up, Ava?
Hey.
Dingo, what's your deal, Dingo?
What do
Hey.
you mean?
I hear really bad things about you, Dingo.
They're probably false. I'm a nice person.
No. I hear, man. Look at
Dingo.
Dude, Dingo is something completely different. I know he used to go by the name Tropic. Dude, this man is a fucking weirdo. If you ever interacted with this man, he is a weirdo. Any interaction that people have with him have always said he's just a freaking weirdo and a creep. Like, I can't think of a time where I was not creeped out by him at all. Like, he has a punchable face. Let's be real. He has a punchable face. Like, you can tell he's on some Tropical fell off big. Tropical, dude, Grace did something to Tropical that destroyed his life permanently. Like, there's just something not right with him physically or mentally. Like, his eyes look like they're sunk in. His lips look like there's just something wrong about, like, I shouldn't judge people by their appearance, right? Because I don't cam up, whatever. But like in the case of Dingo, if you ever interacted with him, you know what I'm talking about. There's just an aura of just disturbance. Like even Ruby had Dingo up, and even Ruby felt uncomfortable. Like there's just something not right with him.
What happened to you,
Dingo
Dingo?
is fine. He's just
What
a
happened
little.
to you, Dingo? You used to, man. Like when I see your face, I feel gloomy.
You know, he used to be jacked.
That's why I say what happened.
Uh,
Right,
I got to such a point of jackness where I stopped caring about it. Have you ever heard of Matt Kroxaleski? Like he was literally the strongest man on the world at one point. Then he became transgender.
Whoa.
Oh, is that what
I don't
you
believe
did?
it.
I like how he had to bring up that he could have literally brought any other example of any jack up guy that hurt their back or destroyed their body. He brings up the one guy who was transgender. I've heard. I don't know if he was joking about being transgender, but that sounds very plausible.
Is that your inspiration?
It's probably something like that. But
EV3, like no offense, man. I hear worse things about you, man.
Okay.
I'm not.
Right, yeah, do you want to?
Doesn't
Sorry.
matter.
I mean, like this.
Do you want it? Did you
Mm,
get your
the
cup of
owners
tea?
here, so-
Did you get your cup of tea?
Yeah, I got my cup of tea.
Yeah, you guys,
Do you
you
have
guys
your
can,
biscuits?
can do whatever if you want. Just this VC to yourself. Feel
I
free.
don't mind you
to
being here,
leave.
but I don't mind you being here. But he's called me out, so I don't mind. I want him to.
Get
I
some
just want.
biscuits with your tea. It's
I won't mind a
fine,
bit.
man.
I won't mind a bit of decorum.
Decorum. Do you know what
Yeah,
decorum
I'll just
is?
be listening.
Oh, EB3, you're posh, aren't you?
Okay. I only accept really genuine challenges, Mana. Have you got one?
Listen to me, man. You're a joke, so that's why I'm treating you as a joke. I don't think you deserve respect. I don't think you know what Christianity is. I don't think you actually.
Okay, first problem right here. When you are debating somebody, even if you think of them as a joke, you take them serious no matter what. Even if it's like debate bro shit, you take them serious. And a good example will be the What If History versus Voss. Yeah, Voss more or less swept the floor against What If History. But What If History didn't come in and just call Voss the joke. He didn't call Voss an idiot. He went in and taking Voss somewhat serious. You gotta take your opposition serious, especially if you don't agree with them, or if you do agree with them, but you're debating on certain minutia, like you know how communists will debate over utopian versus scientific, right? A lot of their position would debate on other matters like that, like race and religion, things like that. You should always try to take your opposition somewhat serious. If you're going in and thinking that they are a joke and they start to kind of top you, I'm sorry, but you make yourself look pretty bad. Don't ever, even if you think it, never say it. Right? That's always important.
know anything about what you're talking about. So I'm here to call you out, standing on my feet. Come, I pulled my sword. Are you gonna withstand the battle, or what, are you just gonna sit there and be like, decorum?
Okay, why even say that too? Holy shit.
I am going to accept your challenge if it's genuine, right? Yeah. However, I've got certain rules. If you speak over me, it's because you're scared of me, right? Yeah, and you're fearful of what I'm trying to say. You hear when you were speaking just, I never spoke over you. I had my mic paused. So can you pause your microphone when I'm speaking, and I'll let you know when I'm finished speaking by pausing my microphone.
A bit faster than that.
The first one to speak over the other individual loses this battle and this engagement, this intellectual engagement.
What's
Do you
your
agree?
topic of debate?
Do you agree? The first one to speak over the other individual in this engagement.
Hey, listen, what's your best, strongest
So you can't agree.
topic?
Let's sort out the axioms first. Let's sort out the principles of this engagement. The first one to speak over the other individual loses this battle of intellectual
No, that's
wits.
not how it's gonna work. Nope, because you're fucking slow. If somebody's slow, I'm gonna speak over them. I'm not gonna allow you just to sit there.
Again, you don't do that in a proper debate, in a proper like Oxford debate, or I don't know what you want to call it. You can't be doing or saying stuff like that. This is why I hate debate, bro. I hate this whole debate circle so much. Because they think that they're like the way they act, the way they talk, they're just nothing but knuckle dragging low IQ people. That's all they are. Right? Say what you must about Destiny or Voz, at least they have some sense of like, okay, well, let's take this serious even if it's a joke, right? I don't even like Voz. I think Voz is a bit of a PDF. I think he's into getting railed by horses. I think Destiny is a disgusting freak, but at least they have some semblance. Like even Nick Fuentes has an understanding of proper debating. Hell, even some of the Bloodsport people understood that better than these dumbasses.
In your case, everybody.
Ben, you're going to force me to mute you.
Everyone to have what I have. I'm gonna speak over you.
Right, so when I unpause my microphone, I'm going to turn your volume right down so I can't hear you until I finish speaking. So that's the way it's going to be. If you can't be professional and gentlemanly about this, that's how I'm going to treat you. I'm going to treat you like the coward you are.
Wait,
Yeah.
let's like have it not interrupt each other.
Yeah, I've turned his volume down. I can't hear him when I'm speaking now because he's a coward.
He's scared.
No, I want to hear your argument. No, I've got a headset on. Listen to me.
Shaking.
Right, listen to me. I've got a headset on, and when he's speaking
I would
and
be
I'm
scared if I
speaking,
was getting confronted by Manar.
he's doing it now, right? Yeah, I've just unmuted
That's
him.
my fucking point. Let me finish my
Right.
point. I'm saying you're scared, and of course I would be scared too if Manar's confronting me.
I would be scared if Manar would confront. What? Who says shit like that? This is like some anime shit, dude. This is like, aha. You're scared to fight me, you weakling. Aha. My power has only increased, whereas yours is dwindled.
Calling me a liar, calling me a thief, calling me a cheater, calling me a person that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. An intellectual fraud. That's what you are, EB3. I don't think you deserve success.
I don't even know. It could just like from what I understand, Ava has like I don't know, maybe it had to do with something with Ava stirring the shit between the two of them. I know Get Crack and Ava were trying to prep him up to be like a debater and all that stuff. It could just be Ava trying to like attempt to prop him up more. I already said that Ava has to cut off Manar. Ava does not know what she's doing. Ava is if she's not careful, Manar will tank her completely.
Hello?
I'm waiting for you to pause your microphone, man. I need that visual cue. Pause your microphone. I know you finished speaking. Right, I require no approbation in life, man. I don't know you from anywhere on the internet whatsoever. I've heard Jim Bob talking to you.
Sorry about that, guys.
today
The mic should be better now.
I think I've seen you on Ava's stream briefly the other day doing handstands or something. I know nothing about you whatsoever. I think you came into my server the other week and you challenged me about this Andrew Wilson rights thing, and I asked you to steal man my argument.
And then you banned me.
And you were unable to do that, so I just booted you out. As some,
And you
like,
banned me.
Andrew Wilson.
You
Stan.
gave me one shot. You didn't
Why are you
explain
speaking
where
over
I
me?
was
Why are you
wrong,
speaking
and
over
you
me? Right,
banned me
lose.
from that
You
server.
lose.
You
You
IP
lose.
banned me from that server.
You lose. You losing, man. You can. Do you need a pen and paper or something? You can write this down. You can say all
No,
this
I was
when it's
just
your
letting
turn
the
to speak.
chat know how much of a disingenuous person you are. You gave
Yeah, he is their personal locale, but I don't think Ava knows how dangerous it can be. Cause unlike let's be real, like Ruby, as much as I do like Ruby was Gray's personal low count for a long period of time. You can't deny that. Or low comma, or low camo rather, right? Ruby was Gray's personal low count. You can't deny that. You can't deny that. But the thing with Ava is, I don't think she knows how dangerous this can be. Right? We saw how things played out with Ruby and Grace. This can be even worse, but Cal would make more sense knowing he's Indian, probably low. Yeah, like I don't think Ava if from what people have said, Ava is a sister. Ava like to cause drama. Ava's like, if that's the case, you gotta cut ties now because this will eventually get worse and worse and worse. And then all the other debate people who he just burn bridger or spark a lot of fight, they're gonna come after Ava, and those people are gonna be ruthless. That's what I mean. Like Ava has to cut the bridge now, or burn the bridge now, or cut the ties, because once other people start to find out about this stuff, and once this gets even more and more bigger, she'll be a target. Just sort of like kind of what happened with Ruby, sadly. If anything, he's more like Ben.
Give me one shot. I wrote it down. It wasn't voice, guys. I had to write it down. What was it?
You do this again.
And then when he decided it was wrong, without explaining why, he banned me immediately. Without explaining why.
I'm gonna have to turn you down my volume. So on my end, I can't hear you now.
I'm just letting the chat know what happened.
Mate. You don't know how to have a conversation. Right, do you know what it is, Manat? It's not the fact that you're speaking over me, louder than me, or anything like that. It's when I'm talking and you're talking, it's inaudible for me. You're doing it now. It's inaudible. I can't hear what you're saying. So how the fuck do I know what to argue against when I can't hear what you're saying? So when I go to pause my microphone because I want to hear what you're actually saying, you're halfway through your fucking sentence. This is what I mean about decorum. You have no fucking clue what you're doing on the internet. You're just speaking over people, calling and well, you're the one calling me out, and you're in a rush to speak over me like a perpetual child.
This is boring. Nobody wants to hear you complain about me.
And why are you calling me out then?
Nobody wants to hear you complain about me confronting you, man. Calm down, EB3.
Right. So you called me out about rights.
Yes,
Let's
you're
get on
a fake
to the
conservative.
subject.
You don't know what conservatism is.
Right, speak over me again. So I never claimed to be so conservative.
You're a Christian, aren't you? Aren't you a Christian?
And?
She was helping him file a privacy strike on Regia. I guess it can undo that lore now. Yeah, I know, and I did a video about that. I covered that. Because I felt from what I've heard, I heard it from a few people that Ava in the past was known for mass striking people's videos. Ava was known for mass striking. Now she's calmed down because now she received it on her end, which is quite hilarious. But like, if Ava was gonna do something like this, he should have ended the stream. Ava should have told him, end the stream now. And then they should have done this in private when nobody was looking. But since it's recorded, and I have the recording of it, so you know, it doesn't make Ava, doesn't look good on. Now, mind you, I will say this. D-Dog did say his name. Right? D-Dog did say his name. I'll give him that much. You have to give him that much. At the same time, why are you putting your full name on everything else? You shouldn't. If you're on the internet, all right, your first name is something, but if you're putting your full name on everything else, you know that's not gonna look good on you, right? But I have to give him you have to give him that. Yeah, D-Dog did say his full name, you know. So there's that. Now after that, you know, the worst part was later on they would re-say his name. He would say his name on stream multiple times. So if you were worried about being doxxed, why didn't you take this stream down? Why didn't you take this stream down? Because you keep saying your name. That could have been removed, and then the evidence of Ava helping you do a privacy strike could have also been removed, but you guys didn't. Like, am I stupid, or am I the crazy one for like thinking a lot more get behind the camera archive? That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. Huh. But that's what I mean. Like that's what I mean. Like you kind of made yourself look pretty bad.
I'm a follower of the Christ, yeah.
Correct. So how can you be a Christian and not be a conservative Christian?
All right, so he's asking the question, how can you be a Christian and not a conservative? Like, I technically don't see myself as conservative. I see myself more along the line of a revolutionary right-winger. I've said this a few times. I'm very open about it. But also simply just, I don't know. Like, if you are a Christian, you do need to have some semblance of conservatism, at least on more social matters. But like, people have nuance, right? I met particular people of certain positions who were right wing, but you can say they were progressive on certain social matters. Like, there's a guy, one of the first, guy, you know what I'm trying to say. Never mind. Never mind. Let's move on.
Huh?
What? No follower of the Christ would vote, weirdo. What you on about?
I'm talking about conservatism. Do you know what that word definition is? Can you define conservatism?
I promote and endorse
Can
individualism.
you define what
Can you be an individual and a Christian? Yes. In Protestantism, what you can say that individualism comes from more Protestant and Christian thinking. Yes. That's why a lot of Christians who are very individualistic, who are Protestant, consider themselves non-denominational. But a lot of the time, a lot of them would eventually convert to like Catholicism or Eastern Orthodox. So take that with the, take that as it is. In the terms of conservatism, trying to simply put people down as conservative or liberal, well, first off, conservatism comes from liberalism. Everybody should know that. That's just a matter of fact.
conservatism is? What does that word mean when I say it to you?
But they are people that like to conserve.
I mean, an atheist can still be conservative, even if they're not religious, right? Some libertarians I've spoken to are probably much more conservative than most conservative. Most conservative in America only care about things economically, and it's debatable if capitalism is conservatism. You could even say that if Kamala won, she would have been trying to conserve the system that was prompted during Biden. You can even say that in the situation of Trump, you can say Trump was a radical or don't make political ideology of your stance. Yes. Oh, hey, Richie, how you doing?
Obviously, resources.
Conserve resources. Conserve.
Okay.
I conserve traditions and cultures and ideas. Right. That's what.
I mean, Ted Kaczynski can be viewed as a conservative because he was very focused on ecological matters. Right? Socially, I don't know what the fuck he was socially. I guess you can say he was quote-unquote progressive. I mean, technically, I would be considered progressive in the sense that I do support technological growth and the need of technology. Very futurist. It's a false dichotomy. Well, after World War II and after the Cold War, political ideologies don't matter anymore. They really don't matter. Like, nobody's fighting for political ideology anymore nowadays. It's all just about the individual leaders and their own goals and their own political drive. There's no fighting for things like conservatism is basically like conservatism is liberalism, but 5-10 years ago. That's just a matter that's a fact of life.
Yeah.
And what is
all
the
of the above,
first
everything
culture?
has-
What is the
But I'm
first
not-
culture to conserve? The culture of Adam. His
Okay,
religion.
you-
Listen,
this
listen,
is-
calm down.
That doesn't make any sense. That literally does not make any. What do you mean Adam was the first to conserve? Like that doesn't. Like, what did that even? What?
This is
Calm down.
stupid.
Give me three. You keep
can't do
interrupting
this,
me.
you
You
keep
keep interrupting
talking.
me. Can you stop interrupting me? So
Right, I've turned your
conservatism,
volume
the
right down,
definition.
man. This is fucking stupid, man. This is not a fucking debate or conversation.
Yes, the Overton window. Yeah. I mean, the Overton window is quote unquote right wing, but most right wingers kind of don't even believe that because like right wing and what right wing and liberal because you could be right wing and be a liberal. There is such a thing as right wing liberal, left wing liberal. There is such a thing as right wing third position, left wing third position. There is technically such a thing as right wing communism or left wing communism. It's hard to explain, and I know people will be like, "Wait, what? Isn't communism left wing?" Yes, it is, but like, there has been a moment within like socialist, Marxist movement. I mean, technically, Marx was a conservative because when it came to social issues, Marx was very focused on conserving like that secular German. Be back later. I have to do something. Yeah, you're good, NDR.
This is just pathetic. Go away, man. You're not serious, man.
I'm not leaving.
And also another point, like during the reform in the Soviet Union, when Russia or the Soviet Union was moving away from communism, I think it was under I can't remember the last premier of the Soviet Union. What's his name? What's his fucking name? Give me a second, guy. I'm trying to think of his name. I was thinking about him like the last. Gorbachev, right? Gorbachev was a progressive. It's not just an X. It's not an X axis. It's an XY axis between liberal, conservative, and authoritarian and libertarianism. I don't know if you and I can agree on that one, Richie. I think you and I will have to kind of agree to disagree. For me, like I see things that whether or not you're stated, whether or not you're authoritarian, whether like you can be libertarian and still be authoritarian. I know that sounds weird because ultimately the point of the state is to enforce whoever's in charge or whatever political party is in charge. So technically, let's say libertarian one, they have to eventually enforce their political rule through using the state. And that can be viewed as a form of authoritarian. I am somebody who is not very against authoritarianism. When you compare it to totalitarianism, what I guess I am pretty against. But when it's coming to authoritarianism, not that I will be honest, I'm more supported on my side compared to somebody else, but I'm very honest. But in the end of the day, I do respect when people do use the power of the state, when they are using the authority of the state to implement their political power or their political policies or whatever they want to implement. I do heavily respect that. Back to Gorbachev. Gorbachev was a progressive. He wanted to reform the Soviet Union into a open democracy. The communists who were going against him would be considered the conservative party or be considered conservative. So it makes it this weird situation where when you look at the Soviets in their last moment, hell, you can even say that the United States was more progressive than the Soviets who were more conservative, even though like in the US they put up a facade of like preserving individual, they were more about preserving traditionalism, preserving God and people, right? Compared to the Soviets who were more about progressive, but like it's very weird when you look into that more deeply and there's more nuance to it. You know. Whether you agree with me or not, that's perfectly fine. Hell, I welcome the disagreement. Right?
You're not a serious contender. You're not serious. If you look on my channel, what does it say in the
the follower of the
description?
Christ.
I accept
The liberal
challenges.
Christ.
You are unable to
You're the
control
follower of
yourself.
the Antichrist.
You don't know how to conserve your own energy and talk when someone else has finished speaking.
So the conservative Christian is the follower of the Christ.
I can't hear it.
And the liberal Christians, I get like EB3, I guess, are the followers of the
This is
Antichrist.
just a stupid now conversation.
EB3
only
just
hear
wants to hear his
yourself.
own voice.
And
That's
I
what
really
he
wanted to hear your argument, and you haven't got one. You've just come on here
I don't
and
have one,
insulted me by
He won't allow me to
because of the
speak.
things you've heard about me. You're telling me
I would
don't
also
deserve
like to
criticism.
hear an argument.
Exactly, and he doesn't want one. He's just showing everyone how scared he is of me. That's all it is. Now I'm going to pause my microphone.
It reminds me like Destiny without what makes Destiny kind of appealing to watch every so often.
And I'm going to unmute him. But when I unpause my microphone, man, I am going to turn your volume down.
Like Voss, it's a better debater than this. And I don't even like Voss.
Until I pause my microphone again. So you can have the stage. Pause your microphone when you finish speaking, and you can have as long as you want. You can have 10 minutes if you need it. But don't interrupt the other individual when they're speaking.
All right. Nobody can be. If you're a liberal Christian, you're a despicable person. That means you're not a Christian. That means you're another denomination which takes you out of the folds of Christianity. You're a fake person.
Well, what if they are liberal, but like they go to Latin mass? What if they're like stuff like this? It's like, what do you mean? We're not. EB3 is not giving out a lot of info, mostly because Manar is like not asking the question that needs to be asked. Like what do you mean? Like, I met a lot of Catholics. They're quite liberal, but they go to Latin mass. They still hold to very much social thing. Maybe they're liberal and a more like policy making, right? Maybe when it's coming to someone immigration, but maybe other stuff they're not liberal. Like they maybe like it makes like this argument there is no argument. There is no conversation. There is no debate. It's just idiots throwing shit at each other.
That nobody should trust.
Like I would rather his word is poor. He worded it poorly. Yes, Richie. I would like to, if EB3 is watching this, I would like to talk to him about it and get a better understanding. That's how you are supposed to handle. You're not supposed to come in hot and heavy and yelling. You're supposed to go in and just ask questions, debate on that question, go into it in more depth. I'm a Christian as the result of Christian morality. I'm significantly closer to conservative than I am liberal. Fair enough. If we're talking about social issues, fair enough. Maybe when it's coming to more like technological or policy making, that could be also. For me, I'm Catholic. Well, at least I try to be a good Catholic boy. I fail a lot of the time to be a good Christian Catholic boy. My own sins, but I would consider myself much more conservative in some regards, maybe much more than EB3, but on certain policy making I can be considered more progressive when it's coming to like nuclear energy, alternative to oil, alternative to other stuff, right? I'm more conservative about nature, right? Like if I care about nature and I advocate for it, am I considered liberal because I want a cleaner environment? No. If anything, that may actually make me conservative because I want to preserve the ecosystem to make it better. Maybe I'm progressive in the sense that I want to clean up the environment. Fair enough, but that doesn't make me like full on left wing. What maybe would make me left wing is maybe my economic position. But when it's coming to economic position, that's whatever you want to be, right?
Because you're a grifter. You're literally the definition of grifter. Like if I
Did
ask
he even
you,
say he's a liberal though? Did he say
he's not a
liberal?
conservative.
Why does that mean he's a liberal?
So what is he?
He said that he's like I don't even know. He said some weird like esoteric thing. He's like in the middle of it.
Well,
I said I promote and endorse individualism.
Yeah, that's liberalism. Yep, exactly.
No, it isn't. It's called individualism.
It's liberalism. That's what liberalism endorses. Individualism.
Well, it's not. It's
Individual
not quite
rights and
that at all.
freedoms. Yes, that's what.
No,
literally what
liberalism is left wing.
Well, when we're talking about liberalism and individualism, yes, liberalism does advocate for individualism, but that depends on what period of time of liberalism we're talking about. If we're talking about liberalism, like classical liberalism, what we saw in, let's say, the early like 1700s, around the 1600s, 1700s, then maybe. But even then, that's up to you to debate on that one. If we're looking at liberalism in the 1800s or 19th century, liberalism was very, very deeply imperialistic, right? Very nationalistic, very militaristic, right? If we look at liberalism in the 20th century or the 1900s, right? Liberalism, right? And that liberalism of that century is split in two different eras. You got one pre-World War II, and you got post-World War II liberalism. What in itself it's broken up among other stuff.
Liberalism is left wing ideology.
No, not all. What? Ava, do you agree with that? It's a left wing ideology.
Have you ever voted? Are you a voter, Manar? Do you vote?
Yeah.
Hey,
You
listen. Liberalism is
Anyway.
not a right wing ideology. Liberalism is the secular ideology. Is the
He
foundation
said
of
that it's a
secularism.
left. He said it's a left wing ideology.
Oh, it's the left. Yeah, I agree. I'm sure, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
what
the
he said.
central foundation of America is what America's founded on. Is basically the removal of church from state, the devouration of that. That's what liberalism. That's the movement that came after.
Even that's also debatable because when we look at, let's say,
out of that is the movement to try to achieve the best outcomes possible to humanities, devout of divine revelation and retribution. Basically, that's the liberal party. That's what I'm talking about. Hello, can you hear? Do you understand EB3?
What's your microphone when you finish speaking? I understand perfectly. Now let me address the points that you've made about trust. I don't want anyone's trust. I certainly don't trust me. I don't trust anyone on the internet. I don't deserve your trust.
I
because
agree.
I'm
I
not
agree
going
with
to
that
trust
one.
you or
I
anyone
agree
else.
with that
That's
one.
the start of
Thank
one
you.
of my safeguards.
You are right.
Like,
I agree with
trust
that
is
one.
earned.
You're fucking
And
right. Where's EB3
I don't think
status?
anyone in this digital realm can earn my trust. It's just something
Trigger man,
everything
we're
I create
destroying this
digitally,
guy.
I'm
Trigger
willing
man,
to
we're eating
lose,
this guy.
or
You're right.
give
Nobody
away.
should trust you.
So if it's taken
Nobody
from me,
should
that's
trust
cool.
you.
But as far as trusting
You're
anyone
right.
in this digital realm, other than like Amazon with a few deliveries and stuff like that,
No one should
that's
trust
as
him.
far as my trust goes on the internet.
Nobody
as far
should
as
trust
any
you.
of you characters or anyone in life, no, don't trust anyone.
I agree. No one should trust
Certainly
you.
not me. Right? Yeah, nobody should trust me, and I require nobody.
But
to
people
trust
can
What
trust
happened-
me. You can't say that they
Why are
can't
you
trust me.
speaking over me? Why
People-
are
you
you
can
speaking over
trust
me?
me,
Are you
guys.
scared? Are you scared?
No,
Are
no,
you
you said
scared
something
after that?
wrong. You said you can't trust me because you said you implied that they can't
But
trust me
don't take it
because you said they
personally.
can't trust
We're
people
not
on the
don't taking
internet.
it personally.
You can
Don't
trust
take it
me,
personally.
guys. You just can't
No,
trust
you
people
can't.
like AB3, the scam
You can't.
artist,
You can't.
the fake conservative.
You scared of me?
You're
This
a
guy's
fake
scared of
Christian.
me
You
that
don't even
much.
know what Christianity stands for. How can you be a
Scam
liberal
artist.
Christian?
Wait, why do you say scam artist?
What is a
Why are you
liberal
speaking over me?
Christian? That's it's like
Now, in the situation of, as you brought up, Rich, I hate when people cite separation of church and state. It was a promise to keep the state out of the church and not God out of law. That is also true. I mean, let's look at like 18th century Germany. Very Protestant, very stated, very much focused with the church, but was very liberal, right? Some extent, even like in England, the United Kingdom, very liberal state, had a very focus on God as well.
saying like I'm
Why
a
are you speaking
conservative
over me if you're
pagan.
not scared?
Like what the fuck are you talking about? Like
Why are you
fuck off,
speaking
you
over me if you're
guys.
not scared? If you're not
Just
scared,
because you don't want to do the ritual of eating the baby's head doesn't mean you're just like
why
conservative
are you
from the pagan religion.
interrupting me if you're not petrified of me and scared of me? Right, I don't require anyone's trust. And when I said you,
Keep
don't take
digging-
it personally.
keep-
I just
keep
mean
digging the shovel,
everyone.
keep
Like,
putting
don't
the
take it
good
so
job.
personally. You may very well be a very well, indeed, trustworthy guy in life, yeah?
He's so
But there's
dumb,
no
he
requirement
keeps
for me
putting
to trust
shovel,
you with
like
anything.
he's, like,
There's no
shoveling
need.
himself in. EB3
So
is
why
himself.
bother? And I judge people how I expect to be judged.
Zombie.
Because I'm not prepared to trust
You're a
anyone on the
piece
internet. I
of
don't expect to be
shit,
judged,
zombie.
trusted either, and you shouldn't trust me. As far as left-wing and right-wing ideologies are concerned, liberalism falls under left-wing. I'm glad you agreed with me in the end. And Ava had to point out that you misheard something, and that's probably because you're too eager to speak over people and not actually listen to the argument that's being given. I promote individualism. I don't vote. Right, I'm a follower of the Christ. Do you know what voters did? According to biblical scripture, voters, when given a choice between Barabbas, the criminal, rapist, murderer, right, and or the Christ,
What up,
they
Mike?
screamed out
Nice
to
see you,
free
Mike.
Barabbas and to crucify the Christ. That's who voters depict in the Holy Scripture in the New Testament. And in the Old Testament, a prophet came to tell them that they don't need a man king, they've got God, and they shouldn't be
Exactly.
jealous of
What's
other
he talking
nations.
about?
But the Israelites were jealous of other nations and wanted a man king, even though they were told by the prophet that this man king and their generations of will become corrupt
What's he
and
talking
and make them suffer great inequities. And they still asked for one anyway. So both times voting is depicted in the Holy Scripture is when mankind turned their back and spat in the face of God. So I'm not a voter. I'm an actual follower of the Christ. And you're right, I don't belong to any denomination. As far as I'm concerned now, or the church.
And it's a thing between Christians, particularly in the right wing sphere, whether or not voting should be whether we should vote or not. I think that's up to you. I think in some instances, you can say that the Bible support things like mononic. I'm not even saying the word right.
Churches of man on this earth are corrupt. They represent
Eva, why can't you
as
mod?
good
Eva,
as
can you
the
mod?
Antichrist on earth.
Okay,
And anti
EB3,
doesn't
when do you
necessarily
stop?
mean,
When
let
are
me
you
just
gonna
land my
stop?
plane,
When
let
are
me
you
land
gonna
my plane,
stop?
let me land my plane, let me land my plane, let me land my plane, 30 seconds. Antichrist doesn't mean, right, yeah, Satan or the devil per se in the strictest sense.
You haven't
Anti
responded
in
to
tongue of old.
anything.
20 more seconds, 20 more seconds, 20 more seconds, pause your microphone, and you can have as long as you want. Anti in tongue of old just means in place
Dingo,
of
can you
or instead.
moderate, Dingo?
You see, why you can't even do 20 seconds, man.
Yeah, let him finish, and then you go. Just 20 more
Yeah.
seconds.
20 fucking more seconds. Anti in tongue of old means
Bro, I'm not even trying to
instead
do
of
power
or
mode. Like,
replacement
this guy's
of. It
just
doesn't
fucking
necessarily mean
boring.
opposite to.
What is
So
he
those
talking
that try
about?
and represent the
Why is
Christ
the
on
guy's
earth
letters
do
not
fall under the
disappearing from my
category of
fucking
the
channel?
Antichrist, because Christ is not of this world and not
The
of
letters
this
are not
kingdom.
going
So
away.
those who go to material buildings and churches and dress up in robes and gold thrones and stuff like that.
Nice,
are
thank you so
far
much,
from
guys, for the
Christ.
likes. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the engagement. Really appreciate it. You haven't responded to anything I said. Liberal Christians are fake Christians because they stand for liberal values that you cannot differentiate between them and secularists. They stand for the same values. That means they cannot stand for religious values. So they cannot stand for true. For example, a liberal Christian would disagree in a conservative sense with another Christian. If it's a little bit too conservative, that takes them out of the fold of Christianity. I don't know if you know anything about Christianity. You can't just keep saying that I'm a liberal Christian or I'm just not a conservative Christian or
Well,
an esoteric
to be
Christian
fair,
or whatever you want to call yourself.
he didn't really answer your question, but also like
What I'm
well,
saying-
he kind of did. He just said that he's not involved in like politics or any of that. at
No, no,
all.
it's not about politics. It's about are you a traditionalist or are you a progressive, EB3? And you're a progressive.
You need to pause your microphone if you want to know.
Okay, but what does that even mean? Now I remember my point. When it's coming to republicanism or monarchy in the Bible, it can go either way because they both been at least mentioned at least a few times. When it's coming to this whole thing between progressives and traditionalists, like you can be traditionalist socially speaking, right, but be progressive like on other matters, as I spoke before. So, I mean, like a lot of their position Christians, right? You can call them progressive because maybe economically they don't agree with capitalism, but they don't agree necessarily with Marxist socialism. But maybe in other things they're more conservative or more tradition. Maybe in certain things like maybe letting women work, letting other stuff like that, maybe kind of progressive. It could be viewed as progressive. So again, it's during he's basically debating like your average American debater, where everything is based on traditionalism or progressivism without really like thinking about nuance or the complexity of political systems and how those systems evolved and changed over a long period of time, or how one system may be viewed, I guess, like progressive, but may end up becoming conservative in a weird way. Like as I said, like if Kamala would have won, Kamala probably would have been conservative to the system, to the status quo, where Donald Trump was the opposite, and he was wanting to disrupt the system. The people who voted for Trump, who were many of them were accelerators, wanted that. But just because they voted for Trump, you label them as conservative, and maybe they themselves were not conservative, and they were more something different, and they wanted to accept. Like again, stuff like that does matter.
And that's
No,
the
no,
thing,
I'm not gonna let you go for 15 minutes.
I'm not a liberal. You keep
If you're
accusing me
liberal-
of stuff. Yeah, you know, you keep accusing me of things.
You are a
Reason why I
liberal.
didn't-
You are a liberal.
Right,
You
right,
stand
so
for liberal
so you're
values.
answering.
You literally were
you're
debating for
strawmanning
rights.
me. You're strawmanning me.
You're debating for rights against Andrew Wilson. You stand for liberal
Building up
values.
bullshit. Speak,
There is
like,
no
listen.
differentiation
Right, pause your
between you and a
microphone.
liberal when you stand next to each other.
Speaking.
I can't tell the
Finish
difference.
speaking. You just want to shout in match because that's all you
EB3,
do.
okay, explain this to
You're
me.
a
Eva, let him
fucking
explain
idiot.
this. Can
All
he
you
explain the
good at is shouting
differentiation?
match. 'Cause I've took my headphones off. I can't hear you.
No,
You're an idiot, mate. All you want is a shouting match because that's all you're good at. You keep accusing me of shit I've never said. You've never heard me once say I'm a
Can't believe you
liberal.
followed
You
up. I
made that
can't
up.
follow
That
up.
come out of your mouth and your mouth alone. I said I promote and endorse individualism, right? Yeah. God, according to the Holy
what
Scripture,
the
right,
liberals
and
endorse.
everyone in their womb before they
That's
were
what the liberals
created,
endorse.
everyone is a unique individual.
Yeah,
It's
that's what the
outside of the
liberals
scope of any
That's what the
left
liberals
or
endorse,
right-wing
yes.
ideology or politics, mate.
That's what liberals endorse.
I think you could make a good Christian argument about individualism. You can actually make a pretty good argument if you actually were to spend time thinking about it and structuring it and referencing, especially among, let's say, Protestants, right?
You're right. You align completely with liberals.
No,
You
I
try to
don't.
say you're different than them. You align completely with all of their values.
Come on, do liberals?
Eva, is individualism not a liberal value? Every person has their individual freedoms.
I
Devout.
don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think that-
May I interject, please?
Go ahead, Titties.
Just, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry,
With
Titus.
all respect, Minar, would you please let me finish without interrupting, and then you can respond back? I'll try to make this as concise as possible. When you're talking about conservatism, and I am a conservative, conservatism is not that we want to preserve all traditions, because all traditions are not good. No, because it is not a good tradition. We evolve. We want to
You're
preserve
not the one.
the
You're
good
not the arbiter of good.
traditions.
You're not
The ones that were
conservative. You
there-
change.
Also, there is like a very extreme left wing political position called egoist or anarcho-egoist or anarcho-individualism, which is heavily individualistic, but it rooted itself within Marx because I think the guy named Max Strines or whatever you say the last name was a really good friend with Marx and Friedrich Hegel. So, but he's not a liberal. He's a he's a communist. He's friends with Marx and he's. But if I brought that up, he would probably think, well, he's liberal because he supports individualism, even though the guy himself was anti-capitalist, anti-liberal, was a full-blown Marxist. It's stuff like that you need to know about to make a good argument, or not even an argument. It's even just a good conversation.
It's not
Minar,
Christian
please,
religion.
please, Minar, please.
Minar,
I'm
let-
giving
let-
you all the respect in the world. Could you please give that back to me? That is all I'm asking, for basic human decency, for you to give me that respect.
She thinks
So
it's
if a
conservative
tradition,
of
slavery
her.
is not good. But throughout history, it was a tradition. We do not embrace that. And as far as the individualism goes, the reason in the gospel, actually, in Jesus Christ said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." He separated the church from the state.
Okay, that's not a good argument. When Caesar man render unto Caesar what is Caesar, he was referring. So the I can't remember. I think with the not the Phoenician, the Philistines, right? Sorry if I say the name wrong or I'm thinking of something else. Think about the Philistines were asking Jesus about the tax, which got him killed. Which got him killed. That whole thing got him killed. Remember, he was asking him. They were asking him about that situation. What about taxes? How we should do it? And Jesus responded, "Render unto Caesar what's Caesar." He wasn't referring to church and state. He was referring to the whole thing when it's coming to like law. How should we handle law? How should we handle different countries' laws? And things also relating to things like taxes. It wasn't a religious thing. It was more of a political thing in that particular moment. Like, what?
Christians are not supposed to put our religion in the head of the state. We put God ahead of all. The gospel, if you do not understand that, and it's the fundamental difference between Islam and between Christianity. Christians believe.
I don't know. It's not.
They absolutely do, and our gospel backs it up. Now you can go on.
Yeah, sister. Stay blessed.
You may respond, and I won't interrupt you.
All right, Titties, look, you're completely wrong. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Conservatism is not picking and choosing. Can I finish? Don't interrupt me, you son of a bitch. Don't fucking interrupt me and have some respect.
I did not
have some self-respect and don't fucking interrupt me, you son of a bitch. You
I like how he gets mad at her, yet he was also disrupting other people from talking. This is why I say that Manar may actually be Indian and may not actually be Arab. I mean, this is something you may see in some Arab, but like most Arabs who are like big time debaters, at least show some respect even to a woman. This is what makes me kind of think that he is quite Indian.
fucking trans bitch. Don't fucking interrupt, please. Okay.
In my opinion, it's just an opinion.
You fucking bitch. Look, she can't give you the same respect that she demanded earlier. Okay, you fucking bitch. Shut the fuck up.
Oh my god.
She interrupted me the moment I started talking. You didn't see that? She got mad the whole time, policing me. Fuck you, bitch. Shut the fuck up. I'm not waiting for your okay. You asked me a question. You fucking said something dumb about conservatism. Let me answer it. You said you're conservative, but you pick and choose what conservations you conserve. Who are you to be the arbiter of what is goodness? Let me ask you a question. Is killing, murdering 1,037,000 babies a year good? You son of a bitch. But that's individual freedom. You stand against individual freedom. You're a piece of shit standing against individual freedom.
Wait, Minar. You asked her a question. You asked her if she supports abortion, and then you didn't really let her respond because she said that she doesn't.
I don't give a fuck. She's a fake conservative. With enough push down, if enough people program her to think abortion is good because you're sucking the individual freedom of the people away from them, then she would be okay with it.
I have met some people who are conservative and do support abortion, whether or not they're Christian or not, it's a different question. But you can say that they support abortion because they want that rights. But it's debatable if it is conservative or not. I don't know.
Right now, as a son of a bitch that's stupid and uninformed and have never heard my opinion, maybe she's right now like learning. But when she leaves, people are going to program her and she's going to be dumb enough to think that aborting people is a good thing because then the woman doesn't have a right and it's being taken away from her. Like a stupid bitch, she's going to actually now believe that abortion is good and she has no moral reference to do that because she already dismissed all the scripture-based references that she's supposed to hold tightly on and not pick and choose upon them.
But she's even what? What?
How can you be a conservative? Let me explain this, Ava, to you, and you will understand. I say I'm a conservative. She says she's a conservative.
Yeah, that would be more libertarian than conservative. I don't know what the fuck is this guy even going on about.
Okay,
we are the same religion. We are the same religion, but she's conserving values that are somehow parallel to the modern values. Can I finish, please, without interrupting?
You're a cult.
I mean, you can say that, like, you know, there are people who are libertarian who don't agree with abortion, they vote against it. But if people vote, I mean, there are libertarians who are like that who, you know, they're against abortion, but if people voted against, you know, voted for it in the majority, they respect it. There are people like that. If there are conservatives who are like that too. God, this guy is think of those millions of babies.
That's not
Why
the
is she
same
interrupting me?
What?
Why is she interrupting me? Why is she getting defensive and like aggressive? Calm down.
Why is she getting defensive?
Calm down. Calm down,
Let her
titties.
finish
Calm
one.
down, titties.
Let me finish
the point. Let me finish the analogy. So this son of a bitch is sitting there looking for fucking fuck you, titties. So titties thinks she's a conservative. Here it is. Titties thinks she's a conservative, right? I'm a conservative and this son of a bitch is a conservative, but this son of a bitch somehow aligns completely parallel with all these modern values that somehow she's perfectly aligned with because she thinks that hijab is wrong, even though this was the way we were supposed to conserve. This is what our forefathers did.
Okay, wait.
She thinks that this son of a bitch, now it's removing the...
That is a different question because among Christian world, the hijab depends. That also depends on culture more than anything. Because in some parts of, I guess, in certain Minarja of Fazi from the 70s. Oh my god, he's Frizz from the 75, Feds from the 70s. So, I mean, like, there are certain, like, Eastern Orthodox, like the burqa, not the burqa, the babouche and all that kind of stuff. It's very different, and that's more out of religion, but it also is infused within the culture as well. When it's coming to the whole burqa and hijab thing, I've heard people use that argument against like nuns, but in the case of nuns, when they wear the habit, that depends on the order. Some orders of nuns are a lot more stricter, where some of them are a lot more, I guess, moderate. If you want to use that word. That also depends on the country themselves, like in the Middle East, when Muslim Arab countries. Like, I know Saudi Arabia has like the most intense laws. I think Pakistan, I think Iraq is also like that as well. Or am I thinking of a different country?
Individual freedom to not allow a woman to work, even though none of our forefathers allowed their women to work. So Tiri somehow aligns. Eva, let me finish.
Okay, the working thing is a little different because in a lot of Christian society, it was expected for the male and female to both work, both in the field or in different jobs. It was expected, even in like medieval time. It wasn't like in medieval Europe, Christian women didn't work. They did work. They did at particular job geared towards them. It was only really into the 50s and 60s and 70s to some extent that kind of mentality where women didn't need to work became very prevalent. I mean, you could even say that started, yeah, there's some roots in nobilities and other stuff like that, but that's different. And it may have also started in some early middle class places in like France and Germany. But again, that's not even the case. Like, it's a failure of understanding history as well. I'm pretty sure if I was to look into it, maybe there were some women were allowed to work in Muslim country during the medieval era and the Renaissance and that period of time. Maybe not at high numbers, but they were still working, doing something. They maybe not making money, but they were still working. That's a whole different debate whether or not is work considered work if you're making money, or work is considered work if you're doing something, whether that's productive or not. That's a whole different thing.
Tiri somehow aligns parallel to all these modern values but calls herself conservative, and I, the one that actually is trying to conserve these values from the forefathers and from my religion, from the scripture. I'm making an example of my forefathers, really from the scriptures. She's removing the references of the scripture. I'm trying to conserve them. She's going to call herself the same as me. This is a categorical, fallacious, definitional error. You cannot be a conservative if you cannot align with me, and you're aligning with the modern world.
I do not call myself the same thing as you. I absolutely do not.
Bro, you're in hell.
I don't know what titties have to do with stuff. I don't know how I could be a son of a bitch when I'm no one's son. That is absolutely not logical. I am a mother and I am a wife. You are not even a father, so you do not have the full breadth of experience of a life yet. You come from a 7th century savage culture, and slavery is wrong.
I like how she said you come from a 7th century savage culture. I mean, whoa, I would have never said that, but damn. And bringing up her body count, it's kind of like low-hanging fruit. It reminds me how a lot of atheists in like early YouTube would use low-hanging fruit, and when they actually, you know what I mean.
Is wrong, and you are condoning it because a book that a pedophile wrote, you believe is 100% authentic, when we know that it is not. They try to tell us that the scripture of Catholicism and the scriptures of Judaism are corrupted because your illiterate prophet could not read, so he could not read those texts, and he was listening to rumor and conjecture around the 7th century, and he got many things wrong. And when the Quran was finally written down by someone who was literate, they got the stories wrong. So when they got the stories wrong, they came back and said, oh, well, the Christian and the Jew corrupted. There's no evidence for that. It's just something somebody said, Muhammad said. Your whole religion is simply made up of parts of Judaism that are stolen, Christianity that are stolen, and pagan religions that are stolen. That is all your religion is. That's absolutely all it is. I can sit here and say,
is she a conservative or no? What is she talking about my religion?
Then you tell me that I am in favor of abortion.
Boom, roasted. Perhaps every time Manar wants to debate Christian, he assumed they're operating under a Christian equivalent Islamic Republic or Caliphate, where Christians draw all their jurisdictions from the Bible. I guess so. That's where he's debating, which is not something you shouldn't do at all, because even in the Middle East, some of them are like the Ba'athist party with secular. It's not an Islamic Republic. even under Bashar, it was anything but Islamic. Because since Bashar was very protective of the Christian population, Lebanon, which can be viewed as a multi-theocratic republic, doesn't give any of the religion a single full power on each other, right? All of them balance each other out, right? Turkey is only becoming an Islamic republic, but for the last 60, 50 years, it's been a secular secular militarized republic. Yeah, he doesn't know any other system. I mean, this is what gives me credence that maybe he's more Indian, because in India you can't separate Hinduism from the government. You really can't. There was an attempt in the 70s and 80s, but that didn't last that long. Every time he talks, he keeps saying everything comes from the Quran or Hadith. I mean, yeah, like if it's with the theological debate, I think he would keep pulling from the Quran, where it's I think a more proper Christian, even Ben can pull more stuff from other theologians, rather than just simply you have to expand, right? You have to keep expanding your word, expanding your knowledge, expanding your argument and what you're trying to defend. That's what makes Manar not realize. Manar can do the same thing. This is the reason Islamic nations have high 90% adherence. There's a reason. Yeah. Also, most Arab militaries are pretty shitty anyway.
You tell me that I am mandated to wear a hijab
No one
when my
believes you're
religion has never said I have to wear a hijab. You are going by Islam, and I don't go by Islam. You cannot dictate.
I don't believe you're against abortion, because if you're around your girls,
you are in a Western country with people who are intelligent and educated, and we don't believe that beating women because you think they might, and this is in your Quran, they might do something wrong. You can.
No,
beat
as a
them.
Christian, you
We
only
don't
believe
think
that they're
that's
sex slaves. You're right. I agree.
The Prophet's wife Aisha said, "I have never seen women so wrongly
Look how hard I am,
used
but she
than the
obfuscated.
belief."
Reminder, Manar wanted Grace to be his second wife. So what the lady is saying has some credence if you're trying to make Grace your second wife. I'm not sure if that was a joke. It could be a joke, but if you're being that adamant about it, hey, there's that to think about.
I'm not gonna allow her
Women,
to speak
her
anymore,
skin is
Eva,
so
because she's
green,
obfuscated
it is
completely
greener than the
our
grass.
conversation.
That is what this woman said, because your prophet was beating.
Alright, I'm gonna let her go for a second, and I'll be right back. Let's see, maybe she's
This isn't the first time that he would rage quit or leave the conversation every time that he was getting pushed or getting any type of, criticism.
Give her 3 seconds, guys. I'll be right back. Manar, surely you realize our women are completely out of control. Yeah, I can see, man. This is crazy. All right.
Oh,
Is that conservative women calm down?
Manar, you have the stage. You have the stage. Go ahead.
All right.
You're
So Titus, Mr. Cities, Titus, what the fuck is it? You're a girl? I thought you were both.
Get correct. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it interesting that Ava is trying to, I can't think of the word. Isn't it funny how Ava is doing everything she can to coddle, but Manar, just how Grace does everything she can to coddle Ben? That's an interesting dynamic, right?
Yeah, my real name's not Titus, moron. Keep it moving.
So this dude, this trans person, is actually never somehow obfuscated the whole debate. Now it's the debate about, is Islam even a moral tradition or something that should be
No,
upheld
you're
or
trying to debate Islam.
I don't know what the
which
fuck you're
forces me
talking
to
about
respond to your Islam allegation.
Can you respond to if you're a conservative
I don't
and
care
not
about
interrupt
Islam.
me?
Islam is a
Stop
cult.
interrupting me.
You're
Every
talking
time.
about conservatism, not Islam.
He's fragile. He's gonna leave.
Titus, can you stop interrupting me?
Probably not. Keep it moving, Gaynar.
So Titus, can you answer? Are you a true conservative?
Yes, I am.
Do you believe?
You have a different standard of what a conservative. No, I don't believe slavery's right. No, I do not believe slavery's right.
No, why? Do you believe a woman has to obey and surrender completely to her husband's commands?
I believe they both need to. I believe they both need to do that when it's warranted.
What does it? Where in the scripture, in the Christian scripture, does it say both the man has to submit his will to the woman?
A husband is to treat his wife as the Lord treats his church, and a woman is part of that church, and it is in the scripture. You don't know Christian scripture.
So I'm
you
sorry.
Don't know
Can
it.
I finish, Titus? So have you considered
you
the
asked me a
Christian
question,
tradition?
and I'm answering the question. Hey, how tall are you? Are you about 4'9"? And have you? I want to do something right here now. I wish Ava would come on camera because you keep flexing your biceps, and you
won't even show your face on camera. Don't talk.
Because you have a woman's body fat distribution, and when you do your bicep, it has the same layer of fat on it that Ava's does because that's how a woman is designed. See, a woman's arm is supposed to be like that. You put yours up, and you've got that same layer of fat on your arm. Now you saw Ruska's arm the other night, and you saw a sculpted real man's bicep, and that upsets you because you've got a bitch bicep of a Klinefelter victim. You've got XXY.
She's also cool with EB3. I think Ava wanted to create her own data. Oh, hi, Gobbledygook. What the fuck are we watching? We're watching the debate that Manara had with EB3 on Ava. It is a complete it's a complete shit show.
Chromosomes. You have an extra X, an extra female chromosome, and that's
allow
why
the
you
gay
have
doors. Just don't
the
do the
fat
N-word.
distribution of a woman. You've got those wide hips. You got those bitch hips that you're swinging all the time when you're doing your sit-ups.
She won't
and your
even
push-ups
cam up,
and
I
your
know.
peacocking.
You can tell that he's taking it very offensive. You can tell that he's taking it very, very serious. Like, damn, dude. Don't take it that personal. Destiny Star is falling. Destiny Star is falling. Process has already confirmed my suspicions that Destiny's orbiters are circling the leftovers. Really? How does bro? How he does, bro? He hilarious how he sits there flexing and rubbing his arm. Like, okay, I get that a lot of guys who work out do develop some type of body dysmorphia, but dude, you have it bad. It would be a good stream to compare different Islamic political system and then discuss the difference in historical between the evolution of European political system. It would be interesting. It's something I gotta do as they loosen themselves from the papacy. That is true. Though that's I'm gonna hate it if Ava and this clown take credit for the dwarf's downfall. To talk about that, let me get into a little bit about Grace, and we'll get into it towards the end of the stream. In the case of Grace and her down, like, I don't care if Ava takes credit. That's whatever. Ruby probably is gonna take the most amount of credit because I think she does deserve it. But in the case of the dwarves, their downfall has been set in motion since the beginning of the year. Like, last year was when they got popular, and they should have. And here's the thing that I'm surprised D-Dog didn't even bring up once what the whole incestual stuff. I'm surprised he didn't bring it up once. He loosely brought it up, but never anything further than that. The loosening from the papacy started mostly around a little bit after the French Revolution. But the thing about the lucency of the papacy power is that, at least politically speaking, yes, it was loosened, but culturally and religiously speaking, it never did. I mean, we're at a point now where we're seeing a resurgence. Now, it may not be full on what we saw before the French Revolution, really, or even you could even debate that even in the Middle Asia, there was a separation between the papacy as the political entity and a religious entity among the European kingdoms. But we are seeing a resurgence among a lot of Christians, among a lot of Catholics in Europe as well. But I would say that many of them who have been heavily influenced mostly from republicanism, they'll implement more Catholic laws without having church and state being under one banner, like a theocracy or a theocratic republic. I just turned into the door, and it just great doing karaoke. 260 viewer. You should talk about the Church of Reason during the French Revolution. I don't know too much about the Church of Reason. I do know that it was a LARPy attempt by a lot of the French people, a lot of those weird French people. Same thing with the new French count. Well, just like what happened in the Soviet Union, that stuff failed miserably. Right? I mean, the Church of Reason, ironically, was a state religion and more of a unifying of state and church than the Catholic Church was previously. So it kind of showed that the French revolutionaries were kind of, I wouldn't say hypocritical, but contradicting in certain nature.
Like a gay guy on there, yeah, that's what you got going on there. You got that little narrow chest, like a woman.
Damn, and I got
You a
double-digit
narrow
viewers.
chest.
I know, Crown. Let's go,
Have you
baby.
had a chromosome check? You got a really high voice too, like a woman.
So you say
What does
I
it
look
feel
cute?
like
Is that what you're
to
saying?
live in a machismo culture where you don't live up to all the
I'll take it as a
standards of what a
compliment.
man
You're
should
calling me
be?
cute. I appreciate that. I'll take it as a compliment.
I'm
You're
not
saying
calling
I
you
have
shit.
long eyelashes.
I'm calling you
I have
effeminate and
beautiful
weak.
feminine
I'm
features
calling you
on my
effeminate
face.
and weak.
I
I am
know.
calling you effeminate and weak. You can't
I do
even
have,
produce a
my face
child.
does have feminine
And that is a
features.
symptom
You're
of
right.
Klinefelter too. Men cannot produce active sperm that can create a child. You're a married man without a child. And
My
most people
eyelashes are
practice birth
beautiful. They're
control.
long. You're
Why
right.
don't
It's
you
very
have a
feminine.
child without birth control? Why don't you
Very
have a child?
feminine guy. Look,
Can I have 60
am I
seconds?
wearing mascara? What do you guys think?
Yes, take your 60.
I mean, that's a good question. Why don't you have a child? Have you been married for? Now I understand there are complications. We're not sure if you're taking some type of medication that is making it difficult. Like Ken from the LCU has mentioned a number of times that he has to take certain medication that prevents him, sadly sadly, those medications is what's stopping me from having a child. But you look like a healthier, younger man, and you don't look like you take much medication. So why don't you have a child? Unless it is kind of maybe true that you are kind of that. That's just an opinion, a rumor that's spreading around, but it would make more sense.
60 seconds.
You guys think I'm wearing mascara?
Mascara and you have eyebrow pencil on.
No, those are just feminine features. You're right. I do have some.
Yes, you do have feminine
I'm taking
features.
it as a
We agree on
compliment.
that.
Thank you, Titus. Appreciate you. It's like somebody saying to me last night. He said, "You look like you have mascara on." They're trying to
You know that
offend
women
me, you
don't
know,
like
but that's a
feminine men,
compliment
right?
to me, you know.
Women love masculinity, not femininity.
That man made fun of that too. He said how can you marry a Latina and you have no kid? Mexican or so far, you can get preggo just from a blowjob. That is sort of true. I mean, okay, taking a compliment that you're wearing mascara, that's not really a compliment. Like, okay. I'm on lunch for a minute, but these people are backstabbers in their kings or something. Probably. I've noticed that with the Dorps. I'm not sure about Ava backstabbing, because if she would have backstabbed, she would have I mean, I guess like Ava kind of backstabbed D-Dub, but that whole stream is down right now. In the case of Ruby, I'm not sure. That's a whole different topic. It's different if a guy cares about like being like, all right, a lot of guys, especially depending where you live, your skin, if you're black or Hispanic, you do need to moisturize your skin a lot of the time. That's another reason to make a YouTube channel. Yeah, a lot of guys do moisturize. Where I live particularly, it is extremely hot and my skin is very sensitive, so I do have to put on lotion throughout the day. Right, and my face does get sensitive, so I do clean it up and so on. But I don't put makeup. I've just put a basic like facial cream for men or something like that. I'm very much like that, right? Does that make me a little effeminate? I guess so. I guess I like smelling nice. I guess I like my skin being nicer. Maybe my hygiene is better than most. Be real. There's nothing wrong with that. Kind of check out the last couple of weeks. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong if you want to look and feel nice, but if you start putting on makeup or mascara on, okay, now you're pushing it, right? Like, I have long hair, so I have to maintain my hair. I do put a little bit of oil here and there. I make sure my stuff is nice, because my hair gets very fuzzy, especially when the humidity is high. Right, as I said, I have very sensitive skin. Right, I do clean up my face every morning, every night, stuff like that. Basic stuff. Take a shower basic hygienic stuff. You have a good one. You too get gobbledygook. You have a good one. But like, that's what I mean. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, if you are putting mascara on,
Dude, you're fucked up. You can't produce a baby. You are married and you have not produced a child.
Can I talk to your husband? Who's your husband? I want to know. You talked about another guy's chiseled biceps.
Why is there no child?
I want to talk to your husband. You talked about another dude's chiseled biceps. I need to speak to you.
Tell me why you're sterile. Tell me why you're sterile.
AB3, I'll give
I'm
you
getting-
I want to expose you to your husband. Dingo.
Fucking stupid.
Dingo, are you her husband? She's talking about another dude's biceps.
I'm not her husband.
She was reminiscing. She's reminiscing
Can I
about
say-
guys' biceps. She knows the size of my biceps. She knows the size of.
Stop talking about your
I
fucking
know
stupid
your
bicep,
bicep
man.
because you
I
won't
just wanna
stop
talk to
flexing.
her
I know
fucking
Rook-
husband.
I
I
know
need to
Rook
save
is
her
a digger
husband.
and looks like a man bicep.
I need to save your husband. You
go
sound
ahead.
like a
Right,
whore.
fuck. Right, I didn't know Manar was a
What is
Muslim,
that?
but
What did
seeing
you
as
guys
he
say?
is, I've got
Is
a
that a
killer crucial
subscription?
point. Right, yeah, there are Arabs in
Let's
the Middle East, right, that consider anyone that doesn't speak Arab,
Ooh,
right,
sit back
not
to
to
the
be a
easiest
true
you
Muslim.
can.
No, I agree with him, but let me land my
Titus,
plane.
Titus, cam up.
I know you can do it. I know you can do it. Ava, control your
AB3, while
guest,
you're
man.
doing it, let her cam up. Well, I'll let you speak, but let her cam up. While you're
Ava,
doing it.
control your guest. man.
Manar, you gotta let him talk.
Jesus, who the fuck put Trop? Trop need to keep his camera shut off. I do not want to look at this guy.
And I agree
Sorry,
with
I
you.
thought I server muted him. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was just my own.
Look at them girly arms. They look just like Ava's arms. Ava's arms are more muscular.
Yeah, I kind of see how you about the arm thing. This man needs to eat more. There's a lot of Richie. Maybe correct me. Somebody correct me. It looks like he has more water in his muscle than he does muscle. It looks like there's more water fat in his arms. Like, dude. I mean, his whole he looks like he has just more water fat. I mean, for me personally, I'm relatively skinny. I probably have low water fat in my body just because of how skinny I am. But this dude looks like he is nothing but like water. Like I could kind of see what Titus was talking about, and I can understand Ava. Yeah, Ava does look like she has more muscular arms. Like this guy looks like he doesn't eat a lot of like. He looks like he eats a lot of carbs. He looks like he drinks way too much water, doesn't piss it out, and I would even say like doesn't eat enough meat, like chicken or beef. I know like in Muslim and everywhere pork is like a no, but he looks like he does not eat enough meat. Looks like it's mostly water fat.
Yeah. I'll start again.
That's that Klinefelters, dude. That is that Klinefelters. You should look into getting a chromosome check.
Okay, go
Sorry.
ahead, EBG.
I'll
You
start
serve
again.
muted.
The Arabs, there are a certain section of Arabs in the Middle East that consider anyone that doesn't speak Arabic not to be a true Muslim.
She thinks this is not
Then
chisel, guys. She
only
doesn't like this.
true Muslims speak the
She
true
doesn't like the
language
fucking
of,
muscle. Look
of
at
what
that fucking goat.
the Quran was written in, and I agree with them. But let me land my plane. The English language, right? Yeah, was
Fucking Goro,
constructed
huge,
around about 600
huge
AD via Alfred the Great,
doesn't
who
like-
incorporated the teachings of the Christ and
Fucking
Christendom
ugly bitch. Nice,
inside
thank
the
you, Jedi.
English
You're a
language.
king.
They are
I almost don't
intertwined
want to hear this, guys.
That
Should we mute
makes
him? Feels better, like when he's muted.
by Christendom. They are Christian Muslims.
Fuck is this guy?
And I agree with those Arabs. Those Arabs are right. The English
Appreciate the
language is
title.
the language of Christendom, and every Muslim
There's
on
nothing
earth that
impressive. I
speaks
agree,
English
but
as
she's
their
talking
first
shit.
language has been conquered by the
It's
English
really not.
language
I
and
used to have
Christendom
15 and a
the
half. This
Christ.
should be like 14
So
and a half.
fear not. They belong to the Christ now.
Still, Eva would lose, yeah.
Go ahead, Minar. Your turn.
Yeah, I'm worried about Titus's husband. I really want to say hi to him.
Respond to EB. He made a point,
Okay,
and
good
respectful
husband.
people will respond to his point. Respond to his point. Don't
Well,
worry about my
respectful
husband.
people, don't sit there reminiscing about other men's biceps. Try to compare
Don't
them with
worry
one
about what I
another.
do. Respond
talk
to
about
EB.
the physical
He had a very
features of
good
another
point. He had a
man's
very
face.
prescient. He had a very prescient point. Why don't you address it? Because you don't.
You
have a
are
point to
suspect
counter.
of a
That's
cheat.
I forgot about that. Certain oil do mess with your body. I know it's one of the main reasons why I mostly cook with like olive oil or coconut oil or other oil that are not like heavily synthetic, right? Like canola oil or corn oil are like really bad for you. I'd rather just spend the money and get like a nice bottle of olive oil or even use like beef fat, right? Like I know I sometimes like reuse like bacon fat or reuse beef fat, right? As a way of cooking because it's just better for you than whatever this is. Don't try to use chicken fat as a cooker because you can actually get quite sick. I've learned that the hard way. But like that is
Peter, you have been. Sorry,
You,
I'm not gonna make those
you
allegations.
cannot counter his point. I don't care what you think of me personally.
Yeah,
Stick to the point.
I mean, I'm just saying it's extremely weird. I'm just saying I want to talk to the husband,
I
see a
don't
little
care
bit
what
about
you
your
think. I don't
backstory.
care what you think. Address EB.
I wanna
Don't
see if
address
there's
me.
small
He was the
cheating
last
history.
speaker. Have the
Yeah,
respect.
wasn't this the EB3 debate originally?
Okay, I don't
Yeah,
even know what
and I'm gonna be
EB3's point. Can
respectful to
anybody, Eva, if you make
I'm gonna be
EB3's
respectful
points,
to
I'll
you. I'm gonna
respond.
drop down. So
I don't mind.
that we
Eva,
can have a conversation.
Eva,
If he's
I don't
not
mind.
going
fuck
to be
you,
respectful,
Titus.
I'm
You're
gonna
dropping
be
down because
respectful.
I'm fucking exposing you for being a
No,
whore.
I'm
That's why
dropping
you're
down out of
dropping down. Why are you
respect for the
leaving
man who
him?
is hosting this.
You're supposed to be a conservative. She's supposed to be conservative, guys. What is she conserving? She thinks a man should be submitting to his woman at home. Hey, baby.
Hold on, can we
Hey,
can we
baby.
engage with EB3?
What do you think? Should I go to work today? What do you think? Go fuck yourself, stupid bitch.
Do you have a response for his point? Or?
All right, here it is. EB, I don't know what the fuck your point is. If Eva can steal man, I'll actually answer it. If she can't, then it proves that you don't even have a point, and I win this debate. Go ahead.
He's basically saying that in certain Arabic communities, they believe that if you don't know Arabic, then you are not a true Muslim, and he believes that.
the way he roll his eyes, you know that he's heard that before. You can tell just by his general mannerism and his just reaction, his rolling of his eye. You can tell that he's heard that before. Before here. I've tried to look it up. I can't find it unless I'm looking it wrong. But EB did say that like there are certain communities. There probably are certain communities in the Arab world who are like that do think that that if you don't speak Arabic, you're not a true Muslim. Wouldn't be surprised at the real thing.
There's certain Arabic communities, Muslim communities that have been
Fucking
conquered by
stupid
Christendom
fuck.
and don't even know how to speak Arabic, so they're not actually true Muslims. Something along those lines. And so actually, like Christians won.
And where does he get this
I love it.
reference from?
I mean, just by the way he's responding, you know this hits hard. Get correct. When we had that when we had the Somalian guy on Local Reject who knew how to speak Arab, Menard couldn't respond to him at all. So I think this isn't the first time you heard this.
That's a brilliant Stillman.
And what is your reference for this allegation you just threw?
Okay. Alpha,
is the reference? What is your evidence for that? You
What
son
the
of a
fuck?
fucking bitch!
I'm about to give it to you. You're shouting over me.
All right, speak it. Ping it in the chat, you fucking bitch. Where in the Quran does it say if you don't speak Arabic, you're not a true Muslim? You
I
stupid.
never said that.
What is
I'm
it? What are you
not
saying
saying
then? What are you saying? What's your allegation here, you
Calm
stupid
down.
bitch? Now you don't even have an allegation that the Quran said that? Okay, so
Calm
in
down.
Islam. So what
Calm
if
down.
the Quran didn't say that, then what do you mean
I'm
in
not saying it doesn't say that
Islam?
either. I'm not saying it does or doesn't say
Then
that.
go
I
ahead,
don't
provide
know.
your evidence, you son of a bitch.
What? Calm down.
You're a liar. Why should I
Calm
calm? I don't get calm.
I'm
not-
Look, Eva, let me explain, Eva, let me explain.
What
One
child?
moment.
What child?
Eva,
You don't even know
Eva,
what
one
to
moment,
say.
let me explain. In my life, I've been lied to. And I've been lied to so many times, Eva, in my life, that at this point, I cannot blame the liar anymore for him lying to me. I just take it as a
Like, what did that even mean? Like, what did that even exactly mean that you've been? Yeah, it wasn't got cracked. Like, what did he even mean by the Minority couldn't stop spurging long enough to properly debate Vanette? He really couldn't. And in this instant, just that one little thing that EB3 said to him was enough to get him riled up. I mean, he was already riled up, but this hit him hard just by his facial expression. Like, I think this proved that either he is Indian because Manar has spoken that he does not like the Gulf states, or or you could even say that maybe he is Arabic, but maybe he was so Americanized. I don't know. Like when Grace called, Grace did call him that.
human feature. A feature of the humankind is that they are liars. Now, what I do blame the guy that gets lied to and believes it, or doesn't call it out. So when I do see the lie, I have to call it out, and here becomes the son of a bitch.
Okay, wait, hold on.
He loses all respect because I believe it's my fault. I'm the one at fault if I don't call it out.
Hold on. All he said was that certain Arabic communities believe that if you
Okay,
don't
where's his
know
reference?
Arabic,
Where's his
then you're
evidence? Is
not
all I
religious.
said. Where's his evidence for that? He doesn't have it from the Quran, so what is his evidence then?
It's not me making the claim. It's these Arabic communities. Not
So
me.
now it's not even a claim.
Yeah, he just broke out. You could see his eyes looking at chat. Like this guy, he's unstable. That's what I kept saying. Like Ava needs to cut ties with him soon because this will, as I said earlier on the stream, the more Ava keeps him around, the more that Ava doesn't realize that she's gonna paint more and more of a target on her back. And he banned 90% of his chat. Yes, he banned 90% of his chat. Holy shit, dude! Are you like? He is a locale. Good thing I found him. You gotta tell Ava thank you for giving me more material to work with.
He's making, Ava. So now do you take that back that he didn't even make that claim, Ava? Would you take that back now? You actually missed Steelman's argument. So you actually
No, I said I agree with
Ava,
him.
you just strawmanned his argument, Ava. So you don't even know what his argument is,
Right,
Ava.
I'm going to mute you myself in a minute if someone doesn't.
How is that even a how is that a strong man? All Ava was doing was repeating what he said was some Arab. So 90 people then. His chat yesterday was like double digits only because he was riding on the high of being covered by everybody. It wouldn't be surprised if his stream today are a little lower. He's also in a lot of discords as well. But back to what I was originally saying, oh my god, I forgot what. Like Ava was just trying to say what he was saying. And Ava wasn't even agreeing with him. Ava was just re-saying what he was saying. That's all Ava was doing. And he goes on Ava.
Control this
EV3,
bullshit.
you're look, listen to me. Be serious. Why are you even talking
Thank
about
you.
Islam?
Right, yeah. Just listen.
Why is he even talking about Islam?
Because I know you're struggling with this. You'd rather talk about your biceps with women, right? Rather than intellectual.
Who wants to
matters.
hear? Nobody wants to hear. Does anybody want to hear him?
Again, he rage quit for the second time. If he was debating like someone like Destiny, Destiny would have mocked him for the rest of his life. Destiny would have never let this go. All sweep low. There was like 10 when I saw it live. Yeah. If he would have done this to Destiny or somebody else who take debating more serious, he would have been mocked. He would never have been back, and they would have just railed on him for the rest of the stream, and his whole career would have been fucked after that.
Does anybody want to hear that? Where's the evidence? Oh, some countries made some allegation. What
This isn't the first time that he would do this.
country? What the fuck is happening? What is happening? And so what if a country makes an allegation? What does that have to do with Islam? Is he claiming that country is trying to change the jurisprudence?
I like how he said country and not community. Because EB3 says community, Ava also said community, but you're changing it to country. Now, again, I tried to look this up. I couldn't find anything. But then again, maybe I was looking it up wrong. So maybe there are small communities in the Arab world that do believe that, and maybe certain Imars or Emirates do believe that you're not a true Muslim if you can't speak Arab. Most Muslims that I know, especially like black Muslims in America, have to learn Arabic. It is a requirement. It's not an option. It is a requirement. Like the what are they called? The Brotherhood of Islam in like in America. You know those weird Islamic people. I wouldn't even know you want to call them Islamic or not. But they even they have to pick up Arabic. Even Malcolm X, like regardless of what people feel about him, did pick up Arabic and did went to Mecca. So I'm thinking that he is sensitive about that because and I'll be real, I can't speak Spanish. I'm Mexican, whatever. And I can't speak Spanish, but that's a me thing. That's who I am, right? But in this situation, like I don't get offended when people say, "Oh, how can you not speak Spanish if you're Mexican or whatever?" I'm like, well, it is what it is. I'm not gonna get offended. I already been through this already. But in the case of like Menards, like, dude, if you can't even handle something simple like that, I don't think you can handle anything beyond that.
Of Islamic jurisprudence, like what the fuck is happening right now, guys? He's such a bullshitter.
Whatever the fuck's right. Yeah, there are Arabs out there who are Muslims who believe that if you don't speak Arabic, you're not a true Muslim, right? Yeah? And they know that English is the language of Christians. They know this. And what I'm saying is, the Englishman has conquered through Christendom every Muslim out there. But people think that the UK has been invaded by Muslims right now. But what they don't realise is the English language is conquering them all. It's like a Trojan horse. They don't realise it. It's even conquering certain aspects.
What is he talking about? Christianity is the fastest dying religion. What the fuck are you talking about?
I looked this up real fast in terms of like, so I looked up into whether or not Christianity is a dying fast religion. It's only a couple studies, and even then, that's even debated. Buddhism is more of a dying religion. Now, in the case of Islam, Islam is growing not because of evangelicals or the process of converting somebody. Islam is growing through birth rate, not through conversion. Christianity it is both through conversion and the preaching of the gospel, right? So Catholics, Orthodox, Protestant, whatnot, they convert through preaching. Even Mormonism, with whether or not you think Mormonism is a Christian religion or not, I'll let you debate. They at least understand that the basic one of the important thing of Christendom is the preaching of the gospel, right? I don't think how he doesn't get that. Mormonism is growing. Catholicism is resurging in America and in Europe as we speak. There's a number of reports on that, right? East Asia is seeing a major boost in Christendom. I can't remember, but there was a study that says that like China may be the biggest Christian country in the next like 100 to 150 years at the rate things are going over in China. North Korea, from what I understand, Orthodoxy is growing there as well. South Korea, Christendom is growing massively among the Protestant and Catholic denomination. The Philippines is basically a Catholic nation, and their numbers are growing. I know Japan's a little iffy about their particular numbers, but it's growing in East Asia and it's having a resurgence in America and Europe as we speak. Obviously, South America, Latin America will still be a plural Catholic nation, but their numbers are still growing, even if they're converting to Protestantism or a different it's forbidden fruit there. Yeah, yeah, I know Christianity is forbidden in Japan, but I do think, and maybe I'm coping. I do think it will eventually burst out and it will expand once more. I'm gonna cope for that one. Get Crack is gonna call me a coper, but I do know in the case of like China, and I think maybe Get Crack would agree with me that at least Christians with Confucian tendencies are growing in China, at least steadily upwards. In the case of Islam, as I said, Islam is only growing through population, through birth, not through. And also remember, Arabics generally do have more kids. Islamic black, right? Islamic Africans do have more kids, but also in places like in Sub-Saharan Africa and other parts of Africa, there is a Christian genocide that has been happening technically because of of those groups, but people don't talk about that. And in part of I think is I think it's Burma, there is a strong Christian population that is growing. I spoke to a girl from that area, and she mentioned that a few times. Now there are persecution in that area, but it still is growing, right? I'm not sure about India, but India is a very different situation. I believe Iraq and Iran saw a major resurgence of Christianity, even recently, a lot more than Zoroastrian actually. um, and then obviously due to the death of like a lot of Palestinian Christians, that could be a fact, but the numbers are there. So being ignorant about that, hope. Now I do think a lot of old boomer Christians are dying. That's a good point to make. But at the same time, the new Christian people that are coming out of those boomers are a lot more traditional. They're a lot more vibrant. They're a lot more nuanced compared to the boomers we saw.
What are you
In fact,
talking about?
the English language is the most.
But what are you
extensive
conquering? Yeah, it's gonna be
language.
English Muslims. Like that's what happened in British.
Yeah,
You see
the-
it.
the
Pakis
English
took
Muslims-
over your streets, and they became better Brits than you guys. They speak better posh English than you. Don't worry, they will take the language, but they will be Muslims. It's over for
Yeah.
you, baby.
The situation of England, I gotta be careful because what I can say can get me in a lot of trouble, especially in England. And it's Christian boomers are very lukewarm. 100%, they are very lukewarm compared to more millennials and Zoomer Christians. I gotta be careful what I say about when relating to England and Islam, because the laws there are very finicky and I can get in trouble. You know, England, a lot of English people don't like them. When I spoke to even like Stinky Brute, he even mentioned that as well. His confidence doesn't realize that eventually things are turning around. I mean, in Ireland, right? In Ireland, both the both Northern Ireland, South Ireland, right? Among both their Christian, both among their Catholic and Protestant, literally joined together to fight against the migrants. So and EB3 is correct. English is the most dominant language. It is interesting to even even in Arabic speaking country they learn English, they learn French, even some of them learn Spanish or even Russian. So the European language and culture is dominating Arab world as we speak. I mean, like look at Saudi Arabia. So it's a little bit of a cope on his end.
See, like,
It's
you don't
over for
even
you.
believe. You clearly don't believe.
And they will
yourself,
change
Alan.
your culture. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna switch the constitution to them.
You clearly don't believe your own words that are coming out your mouth because you're going to come up.
Also, it's funny that Manar would say this, but yet Manar would not want to live in an Arab country. Like that's what makes it very difficult because Manar, if you truly believe it, why don't you live in an Arab country? Why don't you go back to Syria? Why don't you go back there? It's like I don't know.
Up against Arabs.
So the
right, yeah?
Pakis
only
in
speak Arabic.
Britain, the Pakis in Great Britain haven't been completely assimilated into the culture and speak better British English than
You're gonna
most
come up
people, but
against-
are still Muslims. Are you actually denying that now?
Yes, every English-speaking Muslim on this earth has been conquered by the Christian man. Otherwise, they won't be speaking English.
I mean, he's right. He's 100% right. Turkey conquered by Christians a little bit after World War One. Most of the Arab world was literally divided among the European powers. Whether they were as Christian as before, were still Christian, and by the Arab, they were viewed as Christian. The Soviets, though atheists, many Arabs still saw them as Orthodox, right? Especially among like regions in the Caucasus and in the South Central East Asia countries. So that is a true thing.
Bro, Eva, that means every person in the world that ever spoke English, basically what he's trying, if you expand his argument,
As your first language.
any language that you speak is a religion that conquered and gave you that language. That's what he's.
I mean, it is facts. It is true. Most of Asia was conquered by the Europeans, Christian nation technically. Africa, same thing. Middle East, North Africa, same thing. All of North and South America, same. So his points are correct.
His
No,
argument is
even Richard Dawkins, the most famous atheist in the world, considers himself a Christian atheist because he knows that the blanket of what he operates on doubt is.
I don't think you know what
designed-
Christian Dawkins has.
Designed and encoded. You don't let anyone finish a sentence. The most famous atheist in the world, Richard
That doesn't
Dawkins.
prove anything.
Look it up now. You got the world at your fingertips to see.
It kind of does prove, because when Richard Dawkins started to be more of a Christian apologist, even though he's still technically an atheist, he understood that his framework and his worldview only can work among a deeply Christian population that was, regardless of open-minded or not, it can only work in that framework. So he's correct. And I think if I was EP3, I would have worded it at Dawkins views himself as a cultural Christian, not a Christian atheist. I probably would have worded that Dawkins sees himself more of a cultural Christian than anything else, and that is true. Sargon of Akkad has moved towards that direction too. I think even Thunderfoot moved towards that direction. It's really like the leftovers among American atheists.
See if I'm full of
Maybe
shit.
he got smoked by
He calls
Andrew,
himself a
he
Christian
posted and clipped
atheist because he knows he's protected under the realm of Christendom that designed all this shit under the English.
He posted and clipped a video making it look like he won, but Andrew had posted the full version. What was the topic, Crown? So we were supposed to be talking about his Christianity. I don't know what
out
that
there
is.
that consider people like you not to be
He's not
true
Christian.
Muslims, right? Yeah, because English is your
He
first language
obfuscated
and you
it to
don't know
Islam.
Arabic, which is the
So now the
language of
debate is about
Muslims.
Islam, or is it about, what is the debate about?
Look, even if you're right, Manar, and
you
say
obfuscated
all
the
these
whole
English, let's say you're right, and all these English Muslims conquer the world, right? Yeah, you're going to come up against a brick wall because these Arab Muslims will never accept you, and they are going to cut your heads off. Do you understand? So you're going to end up
Where's
in the
the
same
evidence
position.
for
You
that?
think
Where's the evidence for that?
you're going to end up.
That is true. We have seen that there is a very clear divide among Muslims in the Middle East and Muslims in the West, right? Like a lot of Westernized Muslims or Arabic refuse to go back to the Middle East because they would be persecuted. That is a fact. That's a known fact at this point.
Up in the same position you think you're in now, where you're
What is this
but you're
guy
not
saying,
there.
man?
All I'm
Evan,
saying
you
is
gonna
the
let him
English
keep
language has
talking?
conquered you. The English language
What are
has
you
conquered
saying,
you.
EB3? What are you saying?
The Arabs know this.
Where's
You
your
don't.
evidence for that? I'll get my head cut off if I go back home to Syria, for example.
I'm just saying, eventually you're gonna the barbarians are gonna be at the gates.
I mean, that is sort of true. You know, it is sort of true that the many Syrian Muslim would come after you because of you've been heavily westernized. Like that can't be denied.
Okay, what's the
Yeah.
evidence for that? What's your
You don't
evidence for that?
realise that you.
What's your evidence
your-
for that?
your-
Where did
your
you
way
read
of-
that?
your
Did
way of
Christian Dawkins give you
worshipping-
that?
Your way of worshipping God
Did
under
Christian
Islam
Dawkins
is
say that?
Christendom. Your way of
What
worshipping
evidence?
God.
Do you have
your
any
way of-
evidence
How you doing, crazy?
for your claims,
Let me
EB3?
finish my sentence.
You see why I called him a fixer, guys?
Let me
He
finish my sentence.
makes allegations and claims, but he has zero evidence to back them up.
I've got all the
He
evidence
says
in the
he's a
world.
Christian. You can't catch him on that. You say, "How are you a Christian?" If I'm a Christian and you're a Christian, you're totally different than me. You're not a Christian. You're on a different level. You want to call it? You want to qualify? Oh, I'm this Lutheran Christian. I'm this Christian.
I also wanted to be noted, I have this on literally 1.5 speed, and it feels like I'm listening to it at, okay. Let me see.
Okay, you failed then immediately because we're supposed to be Christians. You don't
Yeah, even at 1.6 speed, it feels like I'm listening to 1.2 speed.
see Muslims saying. Actually, the moment Muslims are like, "Oh, I'm Shia. I'm not really Muslim." They say I'm Shia. That means they failed. They're supposed to say I'm Muslim. The only reason we say we're Sunni, which means Orthodox. That's it. So if you're not allowed to create new denominations.
You can tell that he, no, even Shiites see themselves as Orthodox. There's a debate, I see the debate a lot among Catholics and Orthodox, whether who's the real Orthodox. Just because you say you're Christian, there's a lot more deeper nuance to it. Same thing for being Islamic. I do see a lot of Islamic people call themselves Islamic, but once you get more to the nooks and crannies, the more in-depth detail, they would either say that Shia, Sunni, or the occasional Sofi, I believe that's what they call themselves, or Sophia, or Sophia. I don't know how you pronounce the other groups as well. So, this feels like not even correct even then. Right? Because there is a difference between Shiites and Sunnis. There's a lot of differences, and it is deeply important to understand that. Hell, if you're a Sunni in a Shiite country, that can cause a lot of problems.
That's what you're doing, EB3. You're a fake Christian because you can't align with my Christianity.
I
If
don't
was to be a
know.
Christian,
I don't know what rules you
just
are.
like
Follow the
Kitty is
Christ. I only
husband
need
is
the Christ
fakely
and God.
married to her.
I don't know what rules
She's
you've been
reminiscing
reading.
and thinking about other guys.
I don't know what rules you've been reading, but I follow the Christ and God, and that's all I need, right? Yeah. But the point is, like, I know that the English language I'm speaking, right? Yeah, the teachings of the Christ and Christendom has been incorporated into it. from the
Assalamu
language,
alaikum, my brother.
and
Habibi
the
Jedi.
Crusades and the
I've studied
Muslims, and all
theology
that.
and read
That's why
parts of
certain
the Quran.
Muslims, right, were persecuted by the other Muslims, right? Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for the Muslims. Islam is a beautiful religion. Titus was just regurgitating a bunch of shit. He heard from Fox News. Manar, assalamu alaikum, my brother. Wa alaikum salam. Man, Jedi Trigger Man, if you love the religion so much, I encourage you and hope that you maybe hold on to a Quran, at least the translation of it, read it out, you know, learn a little bit more. Get
I can't tell if Triggerman is trolling him or messing with him. It's hilarious. I feel like he's really messing with it, but he kind of became a little sincere.
closer to that religion, see what happens from that. With an open heart, see what happens from that. You don't have to change, see what happens. Just come with an open heart.
By Christian Muslim, being protected by Christianity, no differently to Richard Dawkins, the atheist. Go and look it up now. See if he calls himself or admits to or concedes to that he is a Christian atheist.
What the fuck is he keeps
Third time he did it. Third time he completely left the VC. Like, come on, dude. Be better.
claiming he's a Christian atheist. Who cares about Christopher Dawkins? What is this? Who the fuck asked him what Christopher Dawkins thinks about? Why does he keep bringing up Christopher Dawkins?
Richard Dawkins is.
Who the fuck is he talking? Why is he even mentioning Richard Dawkins or Christopher Dawkins? Or
I'm giving you
isn't he an actor?
frame of reference.
Hey,
Do you know what frame of
isn't he a
reference
fucking actor? Literally,
means? If you want to know, it's called a frame
he's
of reference.
literally a fucking actor. Richard Dawkins.
Hawkins, then I mean. No, he's not.
Christopher Hawkins is literally an actor.
Richard. I said Richard.
No one knows what the fuck you're talking about. Anyways,
He's
who are you?
a world famous atheist. But he's conceded that he's a Christian atheist because of the logic behind it.
What is a
You're just
Christian
adhering to
atheist?
logic.
What does that even mean? So you're a Christian atheist? Is that what you are?
I've just explained it to you. Do you know what logic?
What does that even mean? It means
Words and
that
conditions.
a guy that used to be a Christian became an atheist. Is that
Do
what
you
you
know what
mean?
logic is, Manar? Manar, do you know what logic is?
That has nothing to do with logic.
It does. Do you know what logic is?
You were making a definitional claim. You were defining things. This is language. Not
Yes, you can't use the English language, right? Yeah, without accepting that it's influence from Christendom. It's
What does that have to
impossible.
do with Christopher Dawkins being a
Because
Christian
he's-
atheist? And
he
what does being a
doesn't-
Christian atheist even mean?
Because he accepts that the English language he uses and all the societal aspects of life that he is accustomed to and takes advantage
Yeah,
of.
so he was born as a
has been
Christian.
provided. You fucking idiot! You just
So he was
can't
just
let
born as a
anyone
Christian.
speak.
That's why.
No.
A Christian atheist is a
Or
person who was
every-
born as a Christian became an
You
atheist.
fucking idiot! You're just an idiot, man.
AB3,
You
would
have
he
no
become a
concept
Muslim
of what
atheist if he was
The
in
minute
Muslim
you
influence?
Your brain starts crashing out, man, and you start having to shout and to have a little temper tantrum.
Boring. As for Aisha's age, the hadith is sahih. Trigger man, don't worry, man. It's not about to worry about Aisha's age. Don't worry about that. Remember, they're making fallacious argumentation when they try to quote studies of today's life and today's science to 1400 years ago or all that. Today, even the Arabs don't marry 9-year-olds because it's outside of their tradition. They wouldn't do that. And because really, according to the life and what happened in all of the world, the age of puberty has actually expanded and increased. It's actually now at 11 and 12. It used to be much younger at 7 and 8 because they used to be in such dire situation. So whenever you get that responsibility early, you get that that rush of chemicals early. Now, actually, it's been with today's studies, and we actually have really strong data. So you can be very accurate, and they accurately made it 14 and 15. Now, you still find some girls that pass certain thresholds in some communities, and their parents allow it. Usually poor communities, their parents allow it, and you see that. And that's the problem is that really immoral? If the parents allowed it, I mean, today, if the parents allow it, like for example, if a girl gets emancipated in the United States of America at 13 or 14, in New Hampshire, she can go and get married. Now, they are trying to work on changing that law, but that's how it's been for all of history of America. 13, 14, you get emancipated, you can get married, no minimum age. So is that so even if it's possible in America through your legal consent system, is it unethical? Is it actually unethical to get married to a young person instead of to actually have these teenagers marry each other early instead of having them experience life all alone and do their experience and journey? Is that unethical? Can we actually make it ethical by something called marriage? That anything outside of that is unethical, and that marriage makes everything ethical? Why do we have to allow them to experience lives and whatever? We know that the average age of women's sexual experience is actually younger than men now. So it's almost like marriage is actually a protection for these girls. They're actually starting very young. The Quran only debates smart because Quran doesn't give the age of Aisha. Even if we're not worried about the age of Aisha, if you see any guy debating and he tells you he's concerned about the age of Aisha, he's not a Muslim. He's not a true Muslim debater. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You cannot be a true Muslim and have a concern about this.
Nah, seriously, ever again.
What do you want, AB3?
Why can't you just be serious and have a serious conversation, man, without all this shouting and spurging out like a spastic?
Stop projecting upon me.
It's not, no, man. Logic is a philosophy that has rules.
I think
and
it's
conditions.
confusing
You're
him with
aware of
Christopher
this.
Walken. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. What?
Logic, the intellectual.
That's really all. Like, it just kind of goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Son of
Then
a bitch is fucking just watching my.
And then-
Son of a
Like, I'm
bitch.
realizing.
Debate Dalmatian, DD.
Again,
yeah, I gotta be careful.
Maybe that's why I use this Firefox.
Is this Grace's biggest simp? I don't think so. This is I thought
Gotta
that
be
was
careful
OCP.
with this
I'll
part.
Also
talk to him
CP?
if he wants to talk to me.
Because
Nobody wants to talk to you, son of a bitch. You're stealing content.
You're asking
Fucking
me?
pig.
Okay, so my official position on the microplastic study is I just don't care. I don't believe it and I don't care.
He's literally just sitting there watching my fucking content.
I mean, he's
Son of a
allowed
bitch.
to. Like how you get mad about it. I mean, like technically we are allowed to do that.
I don't believe it. Plus, it's a French study. Plus, even if it was
No,
true, I don't
Overload,
care.
your mother's OCP. Your mother's the OCP. Remember? She's the one that loves to smear shit all over her, Overload. Fuck you, DD.
You know what, guys? We're gonna start doing streams where I just don't even reach.
Then eventually, DD will
The
get.
son of a bitch.
Or-
The pig skate.
I gotta be careful what I do
you
here
mean wrong
because
server?
I don't want to
Tell him to come in. Tell him to. He doesn't want to talk to me.
Go fuck yourself, D-Dog. You
Yeah,
fucking
literally in
pig.
his
Keep
server.
watching me, you son of a
And he
bitch.
just kicks me.
Fuck you.
And loser.
Fuck you.
You guys can see everybody I DM on Discord. All right.
Fuck you. This
Somebody
is
linked
Menard.
the
I
Ava
mentioned
server.
Indian girlfriend.
He has 2
Thought he
servers.
dumped you.
Is he serious, man? He literally has it linked in his description.
Fuck you. Yeah, I do need to fix that. Gobbledygook, come back to me. Why do you have to stay with him? Come back to me, Gobbledygook.
So how do I talk to him, chat?
Why are you ducking D-Dog? Because I'm not gonna give anyone free content anymore. D-Dog said you were arrested for stalking on Grindr, man.
How do I talk to him, chat?
Stalk me, big boy.
Should I
Yeah,
join the
Overload, I know
Ava
you're
server?
doing.
I don't even know how to get into the Ava server.
Like the stream.
Fucking loser, banned
I
me from the
definitely
server?
did not like the stream.
Seriously?
Yeah, I banned you, son of a bitch. Go fuck yourself. Keep watching me, stupid bitch.
Okay, let's join Ava server.
He thinks I'm gonna
Actually,
go
I
to bed
can't
and
even. I
we're
don't
gonna
have a link.
I do believe he did try to report it the first time because he was watching it, and then Ava. Then later on, obviously throughout the stream later on, I was gonna report him again because of the docu situation. So we're gonna end it off here. I think we're gonna just end the stream here. We've been going for almost 3 hours. Shit, I'm tired. I didn't think I would go for 3 hours. Thought I would be going a little less than that. You know. Yeah, it's man, watching Menard, let me be real. Let me pull back from being an asshole. I can see where Getcrack and Ava felt that there was potential. I just think that he needs to ease his temper. He needs to temper it, right? He needs to stop getting mad. He needs to not rage quit. He needs to let people talk. Like, it's very basic stuff that anybody can do when it's coming to debate. Like, I'm not a debate person. I don't care for debating. I'm kind of in the same boat with Dada that debating means nothing nowadays. But it's like you can't simply just act like this. If you do, you become more of a lolcow, and worst case scenario, Grace and Ben will start milking you. And if that happens, that means the Dorps are gonna keep going a lot longer. Actually, by that logic, with to Ruby and Ava, I don't think they realize, but they may also have given the Dorps maybe an extra lease in life a little longer. Like, I think if the Dorps were to start to like critique his stuff, really go into his material, like particularly Ben. All right, even if they spend like an hour and a half, or even 30 minutes going, they can get a lot of content and make fun of him. But they don't do that because they don't think like that. But not really much I can say. Maybe we'll have another stream tomorrow. We'll wait and see. Till then, ladies and gentlemen, have a good one, be safe, and as always, God bless. Cue the outro.